when I debate people, I usually try to debate within their worldview and their values. So some of the arguments you're going to hear me make, you might be like, that feels like conservative coded. Yes, intentionally so. And this isn't because I'm like trying to like co-opt their language and stuff. I just think you are more likely to be effective at facilitating change if you can appeal to the opposition's already established values and utilize language that's within their like worldview. So I didn't perfectly code switch. I actually wish I had used like language like grace, like more like Christian terminology a little bit more, because I actually think that that's just more effective. But if you're wondering like why I'm avoiding certain buzzwords or why I don't like grant certain things or fight for certain things, I'm being pretty intentional. Because when I go into conservative spaces, I am trying to compel conservatives. Not necessarily the conservatives I'm talking to. Some of them, like Eden, was much more open-minded, but particularly the conservative audience. And to give language to liberals and lefties when they talk to conservatives.
Hi guys, I'm Kyla.
Hi, I'm Dominique.
Hi, I'm Kathleen.
I'm Daniela Bloom.
I love Dominique, by the way. She was great.
Alexis Miranda.
Cool. So to prep for this, I basically went through a list and I said, how is Trump not conservative? And I just want to kind of count some of the ways that I think that he is not conservative. So he swears on the Bible as a political stunt, never attends church. Who's his pastor, by the way? What church does he actually attend? Does anybody know? On his third wife, I think, and has children with all previous ex-wives. But mentioning women, he cheated on his pregnant wife with a porn actress and then paid her hush money in a 2016 election, which resulted in felonies against him. But he doesn't stop there. He actually, speaking of mistresses, he has 8 known mistresses, and that's not including the teenagers on Epstein Island.
I should have paused longer. With the Epstein Island comment, okay? I should have just been like, that does include the teenagers on Epstein Island. And then let it keep going, you know? I should have put a dramatic pause there.
He has centralized power underneath the executive branch more than any president in modern history. He has increased the federal debt by $2 trillion while lining his own pockets with $1.5 billion.
I think it's more than 1.5 billion, by the way. This was also recorded about a month ago, just as a heads up for context, because when we get to Iran, look, the Iran prompt does not age well for many of the ladies opposing me.
Only really clear example of insider trading than Dan Crenshaw and Nancy Pelosi is Trump himself. It's pretty impressive. And he's weaponized the DOJ and violated states' rights over and over and over again. So I'm not actually sure what he's conserving at this point. I don't even know what Trump is conservative about.
Look, it was a little spicy of an intro, okay? I figured we may as well start big, you know? Go big or go home.
Any ideas?
Well, Trump is the head of the MAGA party, America First. Conservative values are, first of all, the family is the most important institution in society. The Democratic Party, and particularly white liberal women, pumped free sex feminism, sexual liberation, mass immigration, illegal aliens. This is breaking up families. They've been pumping this since the 1960s.
Sure, liberal's gonna liberal, but the thing you actually have to defend here is that Trump's a conservative. The guy, wait, did you guys vote for Trump by a show of hands? Who here voted for Trump?
All day.
Are you guys all conservative?
Definitely.
Okay, so what is Trump conserving for you guys?
God, I was so quick at first. I definitely dialed back on the interruptions because the women were getting upset. And I feel bad. I just felt bad. Like, I'm just not super punchy. But honestly, when I am punchy like this, damn, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I don't care what liberals are up to. How is he conservative?
The question is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, hey, listen, you said you feel like Trump supporters have strayed away from conservative values, right?
By voting for Trump.
But that is the prompt. So as a Trump supporter, I'm going to tell you how I align with conservative values, because you just gave me a laundry list of something that a flawed human has done. I don't see Trump. And let me just tell you, I'm a black woman. I got good people in my family. I got killers in my family. Half the people in my family on my mom's side, the men are locked up in prison.
Would you point to them and go, that's a conservative man that I would vote for?
But let me.
God, I was cooking on this prompt. This was such a fun prompt.
You just say what I have to say. You just gave me a laundry list of something that a flawed human has done. I'm going to tell you as a conservative, the values that I align with as a conservative.
Well, your actual job here is to tell me how your guy that you voted for aligns with the values that you say you have. Well, yeah. The answer, what is Trump conserving? Well, I'm a conservative. Did you ever think about that? And I like Trump. That's what Trump's like. You can't just say Trump is conservative because I'm a conservative and I like Trump. That's not no. Crazy.
Number one, family structure, tradition, upholding traditions within society. That is very important so that we stay structured and that we have boundaries in society. We need that. I know what a community is like when it doesn't have a foundation, a core foundation of tradition.
So family and structure, right?
But these are the conservative values that I align with,
embody that?
that I feel like Trump and the administration and the things that they are enacting and activating, to me, those things protect certain things. Like, just
here's where people keep avoiding the prompt about, oh yeah, they do not talk about the prompt at all. Dominique does a little bit, but Dominique attacks the prompt from like, almost like an analytical fill level, not from like this is what Trump's conserving, which is funny. Which her attack is fair enough. It's just like, okay, yeah, absolute language, sure. Look, I probably should have removed all and said most or something like that.
the basic things like a man and a woman.
What does that have to do with
everything? That literally is the basis, is the nucleus of the family.
All right. Everyone spam 1 in chat every time something about trans people comes up, okay? Just spam 1 in chat. We need something funnier than 1, okay? Start screaming trans, okay? Just write like something that's not going to be read by somebody who's just coming in as bad, actually. Because if I say trans, somebody coming in might be like, oh my God, what's wrong with their chat? Right? Just put a heart, okay? Just spam hearts every time they mention... Every time trans comes up, just throw a heart in chat, okay? Throw a big old heart, because it's crazy. The trans. What is Trump doing? Well, Missy, he doesn't like trans people. Okay, first of all, 10 years ago, he did. Have you guys seen the clip circling around of him talking about trans people and how he supports their right to exist and use whatever bathroom they want to? All right, yes, spam the trans flag. Let's do it.
Can men and women not get married
but when you try to confuse people on what just the basic things of life are as a man and a woman, like, to me, you are literally undoing a basic foundation of
marriage
of society.
Trans people existing or cheating on your wife 8 times while she's pregnant with porn actresses.
Girl,
what do you think is like worse?
Like, you're sitting here.
No answer to that, by the way. Good question, though. What's worse for marriage? Trans people's existence? Cheating on your wife with at least 8 people. Probably one of them is. I don't know what trans people have to do with your bedroom, but go off, queen.
Talking about somebody cheating. I mean, people cheat across the aisle. I'm not saying that I condone it. So family structure is important to me.
How is he doing
Upholding
that?
Traditions
How is he
within
doing that?
Society. The fabric of society is important to me. Limited government is important to me. And uniting everything under the executive branch, to me, that goes back to being a republic.
Crazy. Actually, states' rights removal, good. Conservative value, by the way, actually. Federalism, we love that, okay? We want actually less states' rights, more federal power.
That is close. Yeah,
that's the opposite of republic.
No, it's not, because literally with everything being all over,
opposite of
with everything being all over the place, and you letting bureaucracy run wild. Literally, all these different sects and fashions, they have all this power and control, and we're in just a bunch of confusion. So I align with some of the things that he's doing in that respect. Let me see, core values of conservatism. I like financial conservatism, being being financially conservative for the individual. I believe in individual responsibility. That's a conservative
pockets while increasing American debt.
That's a conservative value that I align with. You said
just like it's crazy. The like dodge ability, okay? The deflection. If this is a Pokemon character, it has got the most powerful shield. Everything just fucking bounces off her. You'll be like, oh, fiscal conservative, like how he's lining his pockets and increasing debt. She's like, yeah, fiscal conservatism for the individual. He was gone bankrupt 3-4 times, I think. What, like, bing, bing, bing. It's pretty impressive.
That we're not aligned with conservative values, and I'm telling you what I align with. I don't believe in endless welfare social programs. I see what they do to communities. I see what they've done to the Black community, which is my community. And so again, individual responsibility is a very conservative thing. I think that the Trump administration aligns with that value.
So again, I hear the things that you value, and I believe you that you value these things. What I'm saying to you is, if you're a Trump supporter, especially right now to this day, do you still support Trump, or are you like not on his?
I support him. I don't support everything he does.
Then I don't know how you do so and hold your values.
Hi there. So I'm a former.
That was a weird cut. I'm pretty sure just, some of the editing I've noticed is a little bit odd. There's a fair bit that cuts off. There's a fair bit between Dominique and I that get cut off where we start talking about the JCPOA. They just kind of like ended at Dominique, which is totally fine. But that, I believe that girl did respond at some point. So it's not just that this other girl started speaking and the other girl didn't respond at all. She did respond. I wouldn't say substantively, but just so you guys, just to, be clear that she didn't dodge answering that.
Democrat.
Well, she did, but not literally in this way. And
the Democrat Party has gotten so haywire that I find myself way more comfortable aligning with conservative values. You brought up the Bible. Let's talk about Samson and King David, who were flawed individuals, but turned out to be incredible leaders. I'm not picking my president based on his human flaws. And by the way, did you
then you should probably pick him by his policy. And again, what is his policy conserving? Not a whole lot.
know that he has fantastic relationships with each of his ex-wives? All the children get along. You just look at his children and grandchildren and how they absolutely adore him. You cannot say that about the Biden family, but
so the Biden family is just like totally different. Also, I'm not gonna lie, if my ex-husband, who has a fuckload of money, is the president, I don't think I'd ever say anything about him, actually. I don't think I'd say dog shit about him. At least Biden's still together with his wife. His kid died of suicide, which was, I think it was suicide and overdose, right? Kind of the same thing. And then his younger son is destroyed as a result of that trauma. But it's just like, these are not comparable individuals. And also, I'm not sure how much I actually trust their relationship. I suspect if you were part of the Trump family, there is a lot of social pressure and expectation for you to look like everything is rosy and good.
I don't even want to split hairs. The bottom line is, what Trump has brought back to the American people is peace through strength. And when you have accountability, and you understand that diplomacy doesn't often work with bad actors, but deterrence does. I feel safer under law and order. I feel safer under accountability, and I am a Trump supporter all day.
Do you feel safer knowing that the FBI had to release a statement that Iran was setting up drones to attack the California coast as a result of his war?
I think
Does that make you feel safer or less safe?
So I think the
which is that had happened like a day before, by the way, the FBI, and we were in California. So the FBI, for those who are not aware, it ends up basically probably the scare. It seems like the scare was legitimate, but obviously we didn't get bombed. But there was very serious concerns that Iran had a number of like unidentified ships along the coast of California with their like drones that they have. If you don't know much about the Iran war, Iran is known for very sophisticated suicide drones that are very, very effective, very volatile, very hard to defend against. I won't get into details about that, but there was talk released by the FBI that there was these unnamed ships and they were making like emergency like plans in case they did strike. I don't know if I've even heard what happened with that, whether it was a false flag or whether essentially we correctly identified them and didn't. But it was serious enough of a threat that the FBI did release like public statements about it and like warned Californians along the coast to be careful. So
FBI and the DOJ have a lot of corruptions under both administrations.
So they just lied about that?
No, I mean, again, you
my response to that is the FBI run by stooge and sycophant Kash Patel was actually lying about the California bombs. That's my feedback. Okay, I can just make up anything too.
You're not responding to what I've said.
What do I need to respond to?
Yeah, so peace through deterrence. Trump was handed a mess in 2024. Biden lifted sanctions in Iran. October 7th in Israel never would have happened.
Actually,
the war
Trump
in Ukraine and Russia.
From Iran. Hold on, Trump lifted the sanctions from Iran.
No,
he left the JCPOA.
No, then
yes,
what is the reason?
So Trump didn't lift the sanctions. The sanctions were lifted. The JCPOA was ended. The sanctions, I think, were ended under Trump, and then the money was released under Biden, I believe is what happened. I can check that for you. But I didn't prep on the JCPOA, which was a little bit stupid of me since I had an Iran prompt.
Let Dominic
Point of
take this.
clarification.
This is her.
It was actually the Biden
expertise.
administration in the
Yes.
summer of 2016. So with the hostage exchange, 6 million of sanctions were given back to Iran, and then 10 million from Iraq were lifted.
So the JCPOA was pulled out of by Trump.
Yeah, but that's totally different.
So
that was
Trump, and then, well, it's not totally different because we're talking about the JCPOA. He released the sanctions. Let's just fact check this because I think she might have been right. Obama lifted some sanctions at the JCPOA. Trump reimposed sanctions in 2018 that had been lifted under the JCPOA, but he pulled out of the JCPOA in 2018. Did Biden release any money? Yes. So this was part of a hostage deal and subsequent sanction waivers. Yes. So Biden did unfreeze. But it sounds like basically every president has been responsible for some relief and some. So JCPOA was pulled out of by Trump. That is correct. The sanction waivers were held over with Biden. But Trump pulled out of the JCPOA, which initiated the release of the sanctions because the JCPOA was a relief of sanctions from Obama to basically make a nuclear deal with them.
That's the sanctions that we're talking about.
No. That's the legacy of the Obama administration. There was an expiration date and there was on a renewal. So those are two separate things.
So Trump pulled out of the JCPOA,
But that's not
which was the
lifting
sanctions.
sanctions. No.
Those were the sanctions
So I'm incorrect here, just so it's clear.
that were holding them accountable and making sure that they didn't.
It was the opposite. They were the relief of sanctions to keep in exchange. So they exchanged relief of sanctions for agreeing to tons and tons and tons of oversight to ensure that there was no nuclear program. When Trump ended that, there was a bunch of backlogged sanctions that were owed that Biden agreed in part to pay out of in exchange for a major hostage release that happened later. Just so it's clear. So I'm incorrect about here a little bit.
No, that wasn't sanctions. It was a series of checks and balances for the regime. Which
Why did they agree to those checks and balances?
Because Obama released
We were
$1.7 billion to the regime. They never complied with the JCPOA. That's why.
There's not any good evidence from my understanding that they didn't comply with the JCPOA, and that when the JCPOA ended, there was like trackable known intel that they immediately began enriching uranium for nuclear purposes. We don't need to get into that, but the uranium you need for like nuclear functions, like for power and stuff, is very unenriched, and for a bomb, it's very, very enriched. Okay, just to get it out.
Trump didn't pursue renewing it. There was a clause that ended. They didn't renegotiate for it. So Trump didn't end it. There was no renegotiation. The sanctions that were lifted were under the Biden administration.
So I'll continue on law and order. Did you know that in 2025, crime has
Probably in part, you can't just not pay them back the sanctions that we've get when we've ended the deal, right?
drastically decreased in record numbers, and that is not by accident. When Trump came down hard in cities like Chicago, D.C., and New York, police refunding works. Law and order works. It protects all Americans.
Did you know that crime has been decreasing steadily every single year since like 1960?
You can't ignore the drastic drop.
Hold on. I don't care that crime's been decreasing. Trump, it's also been decreasing during Trump. You ever think about that? So Trump basically is better than everyone.
Does that not matter?
No. It's actually not true. It's not. It has been studying. That's
true.
In many black neighborhoods like Chicago, it's literally kids can't play outside. So I'm sorry that you live in a bubble and you don't understand the suffering in certain communities.
My husband grew up in a homeless shelter, so I don't prefer that not be weaponized
a homeless
against me.
shelter.
Yes, a homeless shelter. So
She was like, nah, sis. Just so it's clear, he literally did. We also spent most of our marital early years living in the poorest neighborhood. We've worked extensively with homeless populations for most of our career. We met at an at-risk youth camp, which is to answer the thing of you can't understand what it's like to like be poor and struggle with crime. It's like, I have worked extensively with these populations. My husband grew up in the midst of it. I definitely understand it deeply.
I hear that you guys have some central conservative values that I believe that you guys genuinely hold.
Also, it just cut off there. Her and I also had a fair bit of back and forth there. They just apparently didn't like this chick. They just cut off all of her statements.
I don't know how you hold them and simultaneously support Trump. I'm not saying become a Democrat. I'm saying if you have these conservative principles, like so many conservatives, you must be anti-Trump because he isn't fulfilling limited government, nuclear family. He's not really fulfilling law and order. He's not fulfilling federalism.
That's not true.
First of all, you suffer from Trump derangement syndrome.
Boom! stupid asshole. Did you ever think about that you have Trump derangement syndrome? If you had thought about that, you wouldn't have shown up, sister. You wouldn't have shown up, sister.
You're obsessed. You are obsessed with Trump.
Obsessed. Of my 5 prompts, one of them is about Trump. Also, I submitted 10 and they were selected. They were my prompts, but Trump was selected for me. One of my 5 prompts. Obsessed. Also, frankly, I kind of wish I had actually responded. Yeah, the guy who's destroying the country, I feel like we should all be a little deranged about. I think we should all be really fucking mad. I wish I had just owned it. I wish I'd have been like, actually, I do have Trump derangement. And the fact that you don't is a problem. The fact that you can look at the way that he is absolutely gutting your country, gutting your institutions, and raking it all in for himself and his sycophants should abhor you. You should be enraged, okay?
Trump is the figurehead for MAGA, but that's not all.
President?
Wait, first of all.
MAGA's more complicated than just Trump. Is it? Are you sure about that?
You keep interrupting me, and that's why you have Trump derangement syndrome.
That's not why. I actually am interrupting you because we talked about how last session everyone was monologuing, so I'm interrupting to move the flow. I can interrupt less if everyone would prefer, but I'm interrupting because of the results of the last one.
As a Black American, there's no way I could support the Democratic Party.
Can you say the other 5 prompts? Yeah, the other 5 prompts we'll get to. They're all in here. Oh, the other 5 prompts. Most of the other 5 prompts were very nuanced versions of the prompts that were selected by and large. I think one was different, but most of the prompts I offered a nuanced one and a more pithy, irritating, a less nuanced prompt. Let's just a spicy prompt. But it's almost always, I think I had one unique one. I can't even remember off the top of my head.
Democratic Party destroyed Black American families, which I was trying to discuss before, pumping free sex feminism. White liberal women need to take responsibility for pumping free sex feminism, sexual liberation. The Democratic Party destroyed Black America by pumping mass immigration, illegal aliens. We know the data on this since the...
white liberal women, okay? Everyone is so concerned about the JQ, okay? They're like, what are the Jews up to? Nobody... But these wise young women are asking the real question, which is the WL, the white liberal woman, WLW question, okay? WLWQ, the white liberal woman question. That's who's really masterminding the last 100 years of history is white liberal women, okay? We can't handle that we burn in the sun, which is true, okay? It's actually funny. Why am I pointing to myself? Because I'm a white liberal woman. I'm here to represent.
Late 1800s, mass immigration destroys Black America. The reason why I support Trump, he's mass deportation is a good thing.
He's deporting less than Obama.
But for liberal women.
Thanks for pointing that out.
But for liberal women.
I'm not for open borders. You probably shouldn't assume that about me, right?
But for liberal white women in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, precluding ICE from deporting illegal aliens, getting in the way. Liberal white women have destroyed Black America since the 1960s, and we've had enough. Black America has had enough.
Hear me out. Redlining. Hear me out. Systemic racism. Look, I am all for talking about the fact that Black people have been given the right to vote, and every other hard glass ceiling that was erected over top of them has been something that year by year they have had to systematically punch through, and we still have tons of work to do. I'm all for that. I don't know if I just want to blame exclusively white liberal women for this, though. I think it's a little more complicated than that.
And Trump... Listen, liberal progressive policies.
I'm not talking about liberals. I'm talking about Trump.
Yeah, because you're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome.
I need you to tell me why Trump hasn't abandoned all of your values.
And we said the most important value is a traditional family. Liberals believe in transgender.
Put hearts in the chat. We got another trans drop. How is Trump conserving values? Well, trans people.
I don't need you to be a liberal.
Right. But
so stop making the argument. I'm not trying to say you should all be liberals.
No, but you're taking Trump as an individual, as the leader of the MAGA party.
Republican government?
Yeah, you're taking...
Probably embody some of the things that we're talking about, at least
So what do you-
policy-wise,
IVF,
right?
incentivizing
And
tax.
abortion?
He's getting IVF to be covered under health insurance. That's
great.
supporting
I actually
families.
love his tax
okay.
credits.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
I shouldn't have said I love his tax credits. I should have been very precise. I love IVF and child tax credits, because I just do like child tax credits a lot. It disproportionately benefits poor and working class people, like always. Not a big fan of his corporate tax cuts. The 14% corporate tax cuts. Not a big fan.
And the tax credits, every time there's a new baby, it's a $1,000 tax credit. How is that not supporting families?
I think that
How
is
is that not as encouraging
I think that's a small level, but I would say one thing that's not helping families is completely destroying the economy through a tariff system that he's utilizing to line his pockets
he's been in
and
office for 1
increasing
year. He's been in office for 1 year.
increasing debt. You're right. And in a single year, did you know, here's a crazy fact for you, but from JFK all the way to Trump's first president and Biden, Trump has lined his pockets. He has made more net worth growth in 1 year, 5 times than the entire cumulative
Really, because he doesn't
wealth
take
growth.
a salary.
So I don't think I explained that well, but it is actually a crazy number that I found. So from RFK Jr. all the way to Biden, they've tracked how much net growth each president has gained as like income, right? Through various things, and in part through using the presidency. Being a president pays, right? Not just their salary, but business deals, et cetera, et cetera. And when you look at the accumulation of additional income that all presidents have made from RFK Jr. to Biden, okay, I can't remember the amount it is. Trump in 1 year has 5x'd the summation of 60 years of president's additional income, okay? It's fucking insane. 5 times 60 years of presidential additional income, accumulation of all of it in a single fucking, and I think it's more than that now, because he's like ramping it up. He's like, oh, I've only got 3 years left. Got to make sure I'm a multi-billionaire by the end of it. Otherwise, have I failed? Yes. Crazy.
He doesn't need to do this for.
Did she bring up that Trump did take a presidential salary? Yeah. Oh, okay. His crypto coin's fine then. It's fine. I didn't even know if it was true. I was like, I don't know if that's true. I try not to fight on anything that I haven't like pre-prepped of like for sure knowledge, because I don't like know all these things. Does Trump not take a salary? I wouldn't
So
be surprised if
first,
he didn't.
obviously, because you were able to prep with stats and stuff, when you say a sweeping generalization, can you cite some of your statistics? Because I'm not aware with like the crime rate. Don't think that's reflected in the stats. However,
That's crazy. You don't think crime rate's been going down since the 1960s? This is just like one of the most established realities. This is like the liberal talking point. Okay, liberals love this shit. They're like, look, as much, and it's a common talking point to argue like why more civil rights is good, actually, because from the time of the civil rights explosion, we just see a steady, consistent decrease in crime, because it turns out when you emancipate people and give them choices, people actually want to choose sometimes bad things, but oftentimes things that are good because it's good for their family, which is just established. So I give her one of the sources for it, but it's not the only source of it, just so it's clear.
Pew.
Okay, I could say Pew, and I could say the sun is like orange or
Pew Research.
I mean, is this that sun's orange? Kind of. That's great. I could say Pew. I could say the sun is orange. I mean, Pew Research Center is a thing that you could source, obviously.
Sorry, when I say Pew, I mean Pew.
I know what Pew Research, but I could cite something random and say I found it at Pew. That doesn't make it true.
Well, you said cite your sources, so I thought you wanted.
Yeah, but okay, who's the author? When was it?
By the way, nobody does this with Pew. Nobody was like, oh yeah, Pew Research, but specifically this specific person. Like everyone just says it's Pew Research. Like it's the same with like CDC. Nobody memorizes the fucking CDC researchers. They just say the CDC. This is Brookings Institute. People don't go, oh yeah, this specific author. They'll just cite Brookings Institute or the Cato Institute. Ugh, so dumb. Give me an example of a source. Here's a source. Name the author and time. Okay, so do you want a source or not?
I don't know specifically. Okay. Does anyone ever memorize Pew Research Center?
Well, if you're going to cite a statistic that's broadly speaking.
Not usually. If you say who has your source and I say Pew Research Center, you can't now further narrow it.
The claim is...
I don't know why it cut off there, by the way. We kept going back and forth again.
...is zero sum. It's that MAGA has abandoned, or Trump has abandoned all conservative principles. But I don't believe that's to be true. So tariffs, for example, bringing economic industry back to the United States, conservative principle, reestablishing deterrence, peace through strength, conservative principle. The family, the tax cuts, IVF as an example, conservative value, family values. Reinstating deterrence with the border and deportations. Those are all conservative values. So you can't say Trump has abandoned all values. I can concede that there's some that I might not agree with, but that's not the prompt. The prompt is zero sum. And going back to
I don't know why
President
she says
Trump.
zero sum here. She means, so I just grant her absolutism, because it is an absolute, saying all is an absolute, right? Which is the weakest part of the prompt, which is why I'm like, I think like last minute I was like, can we change that to most? But it had already gone out. And I was like, fuck it, whatever. It's a little bit Motte and Bailey. I would agree. All is probably too strong, although like Trump as an individual, frankly, I don't know what they're conserving at all. This is probably the only thing, but also it's not a zero sum game. That's an economics term. I don't know. I'm using an absolute. That's her actual contention, which I grant because I'm good faith. Okay.
He's a flawed individual. We could cite every politician going back 20, 30 years. I don't think any of us probably would sit down and be friends with a politician.
Mike Pence is a great example of a Republican that actually stands by his conservative values, right? He's dedicated in a monogamous relationship, so much so that I don't even think he has lunch with other women, right?
Yeah, that's
in fact,
wonderful,
he stood
but that's
against
not the
Trump when
claim.
he tried to breach the Constitution.
Right, but we're not talking about the infallibility or the fallibility of Trump. You're citing he can't be conservative because of his past, which most of us.
No, I'm saying that he's conserving nothing, and that Trump supporters who are in behind him now when he has conserved nothing are abandoning conservative values because there's nothing being conserved here. That's it. Am I good faith though? Usually, yeah. I'm not like notoriously bad faith.
Are Christians, so we would also say.
Shouldn't we a little bit? Your guys' criticism of Biden is that his family's broken, which is why he's not for like connected
No,
families.
I don't like Biden because he destroyed our country domestically and through foreign policy.
He had some of the most aggressive economic growth under him. He pulled us out of COVID like fantastically.
No way.
The global economy happened to bounce back.
Inflation.
America bounced back better than every single nation in the world.
This is true, and every American that I talk to copes so hard about this. America bounced back better than any other country. And frankly, is it Biden? Yes, because Biden got out of Jerome Powell's way, and he just let Jerome Powell do what he's a specialist at. And then he did a bunch of really smart incentive acts and infrastructure acts to facilitate additional jobs within the country. Like, say what you will, Biden's presidency was fantastic. It's so upsetting to me that people look back at the Biden presidency, even amongst the left, and they like are really negative about it. It's just like, what did he do that was bad? Like, he was old. He was old and doddering. I don't know. I loved Biden's presidency. And I would also agree that when there's clips of Biden sniffing kids, it's fucking weird. Okay. I could do both of these things. Okay.
Going back to things that are important to me, there are things that the Trump administration is doing that do lend into traditional conservative values. So again, the premise being has abandoned all conservative values, I find to just be false from the jump. Because it is so zero sum. And I don't think you could point to any politician or any political movement and make that claim because we're all complex individuals who have our own interests. So I just think that the claim off the bat is kind of set up for failure.
I just want to speak in simple terms, just simple, real terms. For me personally, conservative values for me personally, before Trump, the administration, what I saw was children confused about their gender. I work at a junior high school. What I saw was
trans. We got another trans in the chat. Hearts of the chat. Okay, we're screaming about trans people again. I really should have asked for like $5 every time they bring up trans. I would have been at like what, $20 by now. Okay, you guys should pay me $5. I'm just kidding.
people who didn't see the value in boundaries and limitations. I saw people doing crime, going in, getting out, because of liberal policies, because lenient policies, people coming back to the streets, being reoffenders in brown and black communities. I saw, it just felt like chaos. I see black people getting displaced in LA.
This is again not the prompt. This is again just being like, man, liberals are liberal. I don't like liberals being liberal. Yeah, you're a conservative. Of course you don't. Why are you, duh. What is he conserving? Go ahead. All you have right now is one child tax credit and trying to cover IVF. Like, that's all you got, which, gotta be clear, not great. Biden definitely did a lot more for families if we're going off of just like specific individual lines of bills.
By undocumented people And Black people whisper about this. This has been happening for decades. And so this is what I saw. And I saw Trump leading a movement that had solutions to those problems that I see around me every single day. I know you got statistics and you got your facts, but I'm giving you the real, what's happening on the ground and what's important to me. And I feel like Trump and how he moves and what he's activating, I feel like those are solutions to the real problems on the ground impacting.
Facts don't care about your feelings. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Every single year, this is a really interesting stat out of criminology stats. Every single year, parents increasingly, and in fact, especially during like true crime, like the pop off of true crime content, parents will increasingly report that they feel like their children are less safe, that they're less safe, and that crime is up. Despite the fact that crime has been trending down consistently, there was a slight increase around and during COVID, and then it again just began to taper off after COVID ended. Because COVID, as you would probably imagine, was a bit of a hellhole for mental health, which mental health, crime, they're best buddies, okay? Lots of mental health contributes to crime and addictions and stuff like that.
The people that I touch and I care about and I love every single day, because Biden, that administration wasn't doing it, period.
When I say that you've abandoned all conservative values, what
Biden wasn't making my city have better crime policy. Yeah, that's not Biden's job. That sounds like you have an issue with your state, maybe even just your city, which fair enough. If you don't like your state or city and you want more like tough on crime policy, you have to vote for it. Like, I have no thoughts or whims about the Chicago mayor or the Chicago state. I don't know enough about it.
I mean is that you have historically, as a conservative movement, for example, isolationism. That's not like a conservative position at all. In fact, most neocons were very for aggressive global trade because it's good for America to do global trade.
True.
What we're talking about, limited government. Consolidating power to the executive branch is the opposite of everything that's in the American Constitution. That's what the 10th Amendment is about. It's called federalism, state rights. Violating states' rights. For example, during the shutdown, Trump took
The government shut down with TSA, the first one.
away $11 billion in federal funding that was only going to blue states to squeeze utilizing the people, his people, because he's the president of America.
Specifically, he paused an infrastructure bill that had already been approved and funding was set aside federally for it. He basically just stopped it from going out and like ceased a bunch of jobs and money for jobs because he was trying to squeeze specifically Chuck Schumer and a couple of other senators to pass the funding bill. That like this actually happened. He was taking away money from taxpayers that was already promised to them for jobs that was already promised to them to try to force their local leaders to bow and bend the knee, which is insane for a president to do. Because remember, he's the president of the United States, not of Republicans, which is fucking crazy.
Not of Republicans. And he squeezed blue states to try to force the end of a government shutdown. He will actively weaponize Medicaid, Medicare. He is currently threatening to throw out TSA agents and just replace them with ICE at airports because he doesn't care about the common man. He doesn't care about fiscal responsibility, hence our debt going up by $2 trillion, by the way. And talking about fiscal responsibility, he has played insider trading. He bragged about the fact that two of his friends, when they did some sort of insider trading in like February,
It was a shorting on oil, I think.
his exact quote was, this guy made $2.5 million and he made $900 million. And I need you to understand, those people are taking the money from American taxpayers and people involved in the stock market. That's bad. That's fundamentally bad. And if your conservative believes in rule of law, you should be asking questions about the Epstein files. If you care about smaller government.
I should have gone way harder on Epstein files. I don't know why I just didn't. I feel like I'm sleeping on Epstein files all the time. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I just don't think to like pull it up. And I definitely need to hammer Epstein files way more. Was I nervous? Yeah, of course.
Consolidating power is the opposite of that, actually, right? You want fiscal responsibility? He's not your guy. You want good, respectful relationships with our allies, which has been a consistent conservative position as well. Trump doesn't have that. And yeah, his family dynamics, no, they don't reflect anything Christian, because he's not, or anything to do with conservative nuclear values. This is why he like brags about how hot his daughter is, and if she wasn't his daughter, he might get into a relationship. He's done this. He's done this behavior.
True. Has made multiple comments about how hot his daughter is. It's really fucking. You think Biden sniffing kids is weird? It is weird. Trump talking about how hot his daughter is and how he would date her if he wasn't his daughter is crazy.
I think it's very telling when the reply to my criticisms, and credit to Trump, by the way, is just that I have TDS. How can I have TDS if I...
Also, just so it's clear, it made it seem like I did that whole thing and then I just kept talking afterwards. There was like a multiple rebuttal. They just like cut it all off and went to like my final TDS thing.
Telling when the reply to my criticisms, and credit to Trump, by the way, is just that I have TDS. How can I have TDS if I can acknowledge child tax credit? It's my turn.
Which is why it's so annoying, because I say it's my turn. But we had multiple back and forths on this prompt before it went to this TDS thing.
It's empty and thought terminating. And there are things that I can look back, especially at his first presidency, that I think liberals are very deranged about. Warp speed was fantastic. He did multiple tax credits. But there isn't a conservative policy. I don't see him conserving a single thing. He has made so many executive changes and whatnot. There isn't anything conserved. Not even his own family is conserved or conservative.
He did a great job with his family.
Did he? Which wife, exactly? Which wife did he do his best with? Was it the first wife that he cheated on with the second, or was it the second one that he cheated on with the porn star, or is it the third one now that he is probably inevitably cheated on? Like, which family exactly did he respect super well? I would love to know. Beep, 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 beep. Anyone want perfume?
Feminism is moral, necessary, and inevitable.
Can you guess what they bring up? Can you guess what they bring up? Any guesses in the chat of what talking point they run to very quickly?
I'm Kaitia Lamore. Nice to meet you.
I'm June Dubriel. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Jessica Aranda.
Lori Mills, nice to meet you.
I really like Kaitia, by the way. She was great.
Nice to meet you guys. Yeah, my prompt is, there's probably not much to expand. You guys can ask me questions. I think it's moral, and then necessary and inevitable are kind of tied together. So there's a moral claim and then like a economic functional claim.
So my question to you, well, thank you for being here to debate all of us. I appreciate you coming and just asking some questions just for clarity. I would say, who do you think mostly benefits from feminism, and then who is included in feminism?
Do you mean intersectionally?
Just in general, like what people, and then like who's included under the umbrella of feminism?
So I was 90% sure she was getting at trans, but I, as much as possible, want to just move the conversation away from trans people at all times. Holy shit, please stop talking. Please let them be. Okay, let them just exist. So you'll notice that I don't really talk about like trans in this one, but I was pretty sure she was trying to get at trans. I'm just trying to keep it on rails to talk about feminism.
So women disproportionately benefit from feminism. I don't know if you mean intersectionally, like white women are going to benefit more from feminism oftentimes.
Just whatever your thoughts are.
Yeah, so I think women benefit more from feminism. That's what it's for. That makes sense. And intersectionally, I would say white women disproportionately, because feminism has not historically done a good job of dealing with racial elements within a feminine experience. That's why I'm more of a fourth wavist personally. I think it does a better job addressing these issues. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you for clarifying. Because I, obviously being a conservative, I do believe in equality for women. The thing that has been very difficult for me in the past maybe 10 years has been the inclusion of trans women under the umbrella of feminism. And I don't know, because some people don't even believe that trans women should be under that umbrella, and some do. I would like to know your thoughts if you're comfortable sharing that.
Yeah, I'm willing to include them. I think there's an intersection for trans women.
Okay, because for me personally, I feel like there's male, female, and then I would say there's almost...
The conservative conflating of feminism and trans is also crazy, because like, are there lots of trans inclusive feminists? Yeah, but it's like trans advocacy is trans advocacy. There's a large bulwark of feminists very opposed to trans, like TERFs exist, right? So like in this conversation, there's a lot of marriage of being like, feminism is trans ideology. And it's like, I guess fuck the TERFs. I guess they don't exist.
And you know this in the news where you see spas, gyms, there's a lot of women who don't feel safe in women's spaces. And because of the inclusion in trans women in the feminist movement. So I would say as far as moral, the basis of being treated equally, totally agree with you on that. But I feel like with the extremism of what it's become nowadays, that's the problem that I have with modern day feminism. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
To make sure I'm understanding, are you saying that it's not moral if it includes trans people? Or are you saying trans people pose a unique issue for feminism to disentangle, but broadly feminism is morally good? I just want to make sure.
I would say morally, the modern extreme version of feminism.
I really should have been like, what do you mean by modern extreme? Like, what is the extreme version of feminism? Because my suspicion, like, there are like certain types of like rad femmes, even though like I'm not gonna lie, I kind of fuck with rad femmes, okay? I love me with some rad femmes, but there's a lot that rad femmes say that I disagree with, right? So I'm like, are you talking about rad femmes? Are you talking about like sex work positive feminists that most of their feminism is around sex work? Like what are we talking about here? Here's this like radical extreme, because it feels like all she means is feminists that are also major trans allies, but like while some feminists' work might distinctly be focused on transness, that's actually not even the bulk of most feminism, as I'm sure trans people could tell you.
Wouldn't be immoral, especially with what has been included, a lot of perversity, a lot of promiscuity, honestly. And I'm in the entertainment industry, so there's a lot of the Me Too movement. There's been a lot of objectifying of women, which I disagree with, but I feel like even nowadays it's become this horseshoe where women are now objectifying themselves in the name of empowerment, and I'm not really good with that as a Christian who believes in modesty. So that's kind of where I stand with it personally. I'm sure we all have different views on this, but I just wanted to share that and see if you had any thoughts on it.
I think you're pointing to like complicated issues within feminism, right? So when I say feminism is morally good, I'm talking about like my definition, which I think most people would agree to, which is feminism is the empowerment of women's agency and the promotion of femininity, right? And so are there bad elements of feminism?
If a lot of you might notice, I have moved away. I don't define feminism as equality between the genders, because I think fundamentally like it gets lost in this conversation of like what is even equal, and it gets into this like what's fair versus equal and stuff. It's why I've mostly focused my definition on what I think functionally feminism expresses as, which has dominantly been the empowerment of women through choice specifically, and the promotion of femininity. So expanding the scripts that women can occupy, making it more okay for women to be in STEM, more okay for women to be in mechanics. That's like, to me, the promotion of femininity. So that's why I define feminism in that way. And I've moved away from the equality definition, because I think in a lot of ways there is going to be intersectional elements to femininity that we want for women that we wouldn't necessarily advocate for men, and that wouldn't be equal then in that way. And I think some of that is legitimate and some of that is illegitimate, depending on like the topic we're into. So that's why I define it in that way, just in case you guys are curious. And you are all welcome to steal my definition, okay? Because it's the best one. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't love that suffragettes were racists. Not good, right? I don't love that third wave feminists were just like, we're gotta be men now, and women things are bad. And it's like, it's not bad to be a mother. Actually, it's super cool and amazing and wonderful.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so are there like complexities to the feminist movement that have to be like shaped up? Of course there are. Just like there are Christians who I think engage morally poorly and have bad moral thought about Christianity. That doesn't take away from the broader movement. I would need it like evidence that the broader movement isn't for a moral good, which is the promotion of women's agency.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you. I don't agree with the sectionality or whatever.
It's about the trans. We're all up here for the trans. Not one of us is actually here for feminism. We're all cool with feminism, because even if you push most conservative women like feminism. They like that they can choose things. They just don't like the trans. And it's like, that's a different conversation, ladies. Different conversation.
You would call that. I'm more in agreement here. But I do think that feminism in its higher sense, maybe even its most moral sense, the biblical sense, is when I think of Jesus and how he dealt with women, how he acknowledged women, he allowed women to be disciples, included them in his ministry. He gave women something that in the ancient world had never existed before. So I agree, I think, on the premise. I also am a little concerned when I see the liberal movement, at least there's these questions in modern feminism, which was brought up here about the transgender issue, and then also just I'm watching what I consider it seems like the Democratic Party or liberalism is embracing like the Islamic oppression of women, in the sense that what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of oppression in Iran. We've seen women be killed that just showed a little bit of hair. This is where where I feel.
Speaking of feminists, don't you know feminists love Islamic oppression of women? This is like the most tired talking point, because it's like the most bad faith. Like I can at least grant, like I'm like, when some people are like feminists just hate men, I'm like, well, some do. Yeah, some feminists are dominantly misandrist. Yes, that's true, right? But when they're being like, feminists just love Islam, I'm just like, I don't actually see much of that. Most feminists will be very openly critical of the ways in which Islam treats women traditionally. They're just also very opposed to like Islamophobia. That's usually but again, Islamophobia, just a different conversation. Like we're just in different things. I have never seen a feminist be like, I actually love how Islam talks and treats women. Like, I don't think I've ever heard that actually.
The issue being moral feminism. I see that when I look at Iran, that women should be free to express themselves.
Iran should be more feminist.
Right. So I think we're all...
That's such a good response. Yeah, Iran should be more feminist, true.
I think we're in agreement, minus, some of the more extreme issues. But
It depends on if I hold them, though, right? Like,
right. If you don't hold them, then
Islam. I don't think Islam is like this paragon of feminist virtue. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things.
But it is a little disturbing to see that in the progressive movement and with liberal women embracing this kind of.
Well, this is pluralistic, right? I can simultaneously value and have a fundamental value of feminism and also value things like religious freedom and understand that these two things are in tension, and finding the perfect policy and answers is tricky. But I think there is one, right? I want Muslim people and Islamic people to come here and express their religion, but not at the cost of like abuse of women. And I think that that's a common tension we've had through all of history, even with Christianity and kind of liberal order. And so I'm willing to have those conversations, but I don't think that feminism just loves Islam and everything to do with it. Lots of feminists are critical of the way that Sharia law or the Quran speaks and engages with women.
Well, then I think we are in absolute agreement on that.
Based. So morally good and equitable.
So I win.
I appreciate it. As long as also that women have the freedom to choose, motherhood and, traditional values, should they like it and not feel.
It's so interesting talking to women like this individual, because it's so clear that she's just like only engaged in like Fox News and like conservative punditry. And she's probably just not actually seriously talked to many left people, particularly left people that have actually like done any level of thought about why they believe what they believe. Because like, I feel like if you just talk, like I'm unique to liberals in some ways, right? Because I'm Christian and stuff like that. And there's like, I'm not like super far left, but I'm also like center, but like critical of capitalism in a way that would smell like communism, right? So like, I understand that there are some ways in which I operate in a very like subversive and counterintuitive way. But in this way, what we're talking about, I would say I'm just like a print carbon copy of almost all left-leaning feminist women, which is going to be like, we don't love all elements of Islam. We also hate like Islamophobia, which often comes smuggled. Like feminism is used by conservatives as a cudgel to attack Islam. But it's like, don't pretend for a second you care about feminism. Don't for a second use the cudgel of feminism for the excuse of your Islamophobia. Like, not interested in that. We can have a nuanced conversation about the tension between Islam as a faith and feminist values. We can have that conversation, but that's not what conservatives are ever doing. And so like when I hear a conservative that's as nice as she is giving me these talking points, I'm just like, oh man, like this is like the brainwashing. Like this is just the experience of media and social media and mainstream media creating two completely separate worlds that people operate within, right? It's so sad. Like, it's like, I don't know if she's just ever talked seriously and at length with liberal women, especially liberal women that are like decently informed, like maybe women who like vote Democrat, but they like don't really think much about politics beyond that. But like, other than that, like if you talk to anybody who's actually like talking and thinking about their feminism and has read at least one essay on it, most of them will just be like, yeah, I mean, we don't love female genital mutilation. Like, yeah, bad. Not a fan of that. Duh. I don't know. It's so strange.
Judged by that, and also that the economic situation is also of feminism has kind of pushed women into basic market production because they can't afford to not be. And I
don't think that's feminism that did that. I think that's World War II.
In a way, because in a sense, when one paycheck can't support it.
Can you see? So when I said, when she goes, women were forced into the workplace, usually my answer is like, well, if you want to talk about capitalism, we can talk about capitalism. But I know that if I say buzzwords like capitalism, I'm going to lose them all and they're just going to write me up as a communist. So I was like, I mean, we could talk about World War II and labor. I'm like doing the like mental code switch in my head as we're talking.
Family, and you can tax that other paycheck. It by default, you push women into work that may or may not. Now, I will tell you, elite women have always had the ability or the privilege, you could say, of not having to work. But poorer women have always had to work. And I think that...
True, they just weren't paid.
That feminism should include motherhood and value it.
I would just say to you, basically, like, women have always been working. They just didn't get paid for it, right? And so what's transpired is liberals have gone, it wasn't really...
Oh my God, past Kyla's so smart. She's like so on it. It's almost like we're so in sync or something. It's like, pre-watched, got me.
Liberals, it was inevitability of war, of just needing labor. But what happened after that is going, actually, if I'm working, I should be paid for my labor. And if I'm getting paid and taxed on my labor, I deserve representation, right? And I think all of these things are an inevitability that occurred. I don't think feminism is to blame for like World War II causing major labor shortages and gaps and like women having to step into these roles. I don't think feminism has to do like anything to do with like world order and like global GDP competitiveness that you need to have all working adults working.
So
see how I'm describing all elements of capitalism without saying the word capitalism? I'm working hard for these nuggets, okay? I'm working hard.
For the moral standpoint, how is feminism moral to you based on the results of feminism in modern society?
It promotes agency, and agency as a Christian is like one of the most important things to me as a moral precept.
Like free will?
Choice.
Okay, so when the results of feminism are disproportionately against the results of childhood outcomes, raising the maltreatment of children by over 70%, especially in single mother households, which feminism actually promoted with no-fault divorce after the 70s, it actually, I mean, you could say like...
Wait, this is something I should have said. Does she think most single mothers are single because of divorce? Or does she think that single mothers are single because men don't marry them in the first place? Because it's probably the latter. Single motherhood is probably dominantly driven by people not getting married, not because of divorce.
It was
also the idea that it's contributing so significantly to child maltreatment. We didn't even recognize. I don't even think that I did a deep dive once on for a paper that I was writing. I don't even remember it because it's recent. Maybe it's just for myself. I don't know. I was doing a deep dive anyways on like foster care system and the history of it. I think I was writing one of my 17 video essay scripts that's never been released. That is exactly what it was. But anyways, when you actually look at like the foster care system, we didn't even recognize abuse happening at home. Like, I think the first mention of a doctor very concerned about the child's treatment at home was in like, I think it was like 1952, because a child came in to a hospital with a broken arm and a very suspicious story. And the doctor was like, this is a problem. Like, we need to be able to charge them. And he began like this whole political movement towards allowing doctors to report crimes against children. But it's like, so this idea of like, well, feminism has like led to the childhood maltreatment. First of all, we weren't even beginning to assess childhood maltreatment until like the 70s. Like, we really didn't systematically start observing this thing until way later. This is well after the civil rights movement. This is well after the suffragettes, right? So it's like, you can't really, we do this thing where it's so often with the boogeyman of whatever ideology exists, whether it's wokeism or civil rights or the boogeyman of civil rights, the worst thing ever, or feminism, is we'll just lay at the feet of feminism what is so much more often better attributed to better analysis over better like actual data collection. For example, my guess is actually there was probably more child abuse in the way that we would define child abuse, like beating your children, in 1920 than there was in 1970. The issue is in 1920, they probably didn't see it as child abuse, but it probably still was, probably still bad to belt your child, right? It just wasn't documented, it wasn't reported, and it wasn't even viewed as abuse. Now, part of the reason why we note abuse so much more is because we are attuned to it. We've started studying it. We've actually acknowledged it. I mean, the trauma revolution, people recognizing childhood trauma in themselves, identifying it, and reporting the sequelae of it is very new. Like, it really only started growing early on in like the 80s, and it's only gotten popularized where like people talk about it probably in like a pop psych way, like oftentimes in a misinformation way, in like the last like 10 years. Like, it's really exploded more recently. So this idea of like feminism caused child maltreatment to explode, like, first of all, child maltreatment is just unquestionably down. I believe like by all metrics it's down, especially from an era where we couldn't actually measure it, but based on how people talk about how children were parented back then, probably down, because it seems like it was just standard to hit your kids with belts. And it's certainly not feminism's fault. And also, we probably treat kids better than we ever have. But probably we probably just spoil kids now. We probably treat children too well isn't the right word, but like we enable and do not allow like children to like healthily fail now. It feels like, yeah, it's just such a dumb, I just hate it. It's so awful.
Others putting themselves before their children. And I think that is actually putting the most vulnerable community and most vulnerable civilians in harm's way just for autonomy, which I think is false, away? Which I think is false autonomy.
Well, the alternative is taking their choice away entirely, right? Like, I agree that when you...
How? What choice?
Choice of what?
Yeah,
I should have answered this.
I'd rather give people the opportunity.
I don't know why I went into this. When she said how, what choice? I should have said divorce. You're talking about divorce. Ability to leave your husband. Ability to work. Financial liberty. Those choices, all of them.
Opportunity to be good and noble. Because if you don't get to choose, you don't even get to choose nobility. This is the fundamental premise of Christianity, is that the fallen nature and the suffering that we see in the world must exist, because if it doesn't, then when we say I love God anyways, it doesn't mean anything. And so I agree, women, children, men, they make bad choices all the time. All people do. But the beauty and nobility of agency is that people get to make it. And what the alternative is robbing women of the choice so that they are essentially slaves to like moral good as necessity. I don't want that.
But what choice? Because women were always able to leave divorce, at least in America, for abuse reasons or sexual assault reasons, or their children were being assaulted. We were able to do that before no-fault divorce.
Not really.
Absolutely.
And
even by the church, it is in the Bible. It is allowed.
Also, just so it's clear, when she says it's in the Bible, this is a very modern interpretation of the word. Like, historically, it wasn't necessarily recognized what sexual abuse looked like in the marriage. Like, sexual abuse didn't exist previously. Like, for a long time, people didn't believe in marital rape. They thought consent began and ended at the wedding vows. Okay, so the idea that in the Bible it was actually written about of like sexual abuse is like, that's just not, this is actually a very modern Protestant interpretation of this. Now, I agree with the interpretation of it, where the Bible sets up like 3 things that like justify in a religious sense for a marriage to dissolve. But the idea that like it was simple and women could just leave their husband if this was happening is so historically inaccurate. I think I get into this, but like thinking about financial freedom alone and the fact that like women for a long time couldn't work or couldn't get a credit card or were expected societally to stay home, so had no working prospects, so that if they leave their husband, they are facing potential like homelessness and no income, particularly if they are rearing children, is not making that choice actually very easy. It's acting like you have a choice, except one of the choices is like you're standing on a bridge and somebody's like, okay, you have a choice. Okay, you can reach the goal into his... You can walk down, okay, you can go down this pathway that's very easy and simple and society has pre-prepared it for you, or you can ride over lava. And it's like, pretending like that's a choice is ridiculous. It's not really a choice. It's not a meaningful choice. It's not choice in any way that we mean when we talk about choice.
For abuse. If you were being abused in your marriage, then the Bible actually condones divorce, which is one of the things that...
Marital assault wasn't even recognized legally as abuse until like 1990. It wasn't even seen as a crime until 1994. It wasn't even legislated.
Assault or marital rape?
I'm trying to avoid that word. Sorry. I'm trying to avoid the SA word because I don't know if you guys want it in there. But yeah, marital rape was codified as a crime in 1994, right? So the idea that like women could leave, it was incredibly difficult. Their finances were entirely tied to their husbands because a lot of women could not work, right? So the idea that they like could just leave, they were in many ways financially tied to men, and no-fault divorce would also force. There are tough things. How do you prove that somebody is like mentally draining you and not supporting you and not fulfilling all those things of a husband, but isn't necessarily like leaving you black and blue? Does she have to stay in that relationship? What if she's not a Christian? Why does she have to stay in that relationship?
That's a very good question. Why does she have to stay in the relationship if she's not a Christian at all?
Well, I'm going to take this from another standpoint. I think the feminism of the 1950s, 1960s was...
Buckle up for Lori, boys and girls, okay? Lori is about to take us on a magical journey. It's a roller coaster, really. We're going to get all of the buzzwords, every buzzword, okay? Make sure that when you hear a classic conservative buzzword about liberals that you spam it in chat so we can all celebrate together Lori's wonderful roller coaster that we are about to go down.
Needed. I think that it has morphed into this abusive, just... It's not about women anymore. All it did for us was put men in our bathrooms.
Oh, we got the trans one. Bing, 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 bing. We're already one buzzword.
Totally. And men are not women. I don't care how much you want to dress up. I cannot become an indigenous trans person overnight like that.
Do you know if I have a vagina or not?
I'm sorry?
Do you know if I have a vagina or not?
Honestly, I don't want it in my business. My point...
Oh my God. I don't want it in my business. Do you think trans people want it in your business? Like do you think trans people run around being like, look at my willy? No, they're being like, I don't want it. And it causes a lot of dysphoria. And I just want to be able to express myself. Are there like some trans people that like really weird? Yeah, every like group has all these things. But generally, they actually want it to not be your business. They want it to be the business between themselves and their doctor. Okay.
Keep your own freaking sexual business to yourself. Now I'm being forced
trans people
to affirm people, and they have taken over the feminist movement.
No.
I also believe that they have put, you have to go to college, you have to go and get this career before you have a family, where then we have women that are 30, 40 years old, and they're miserable. They're on more antidepressants. It has hurt the family. The feminism of today is not the feminism of yesterday. And you keep speaking of choice. What choice are you speaking of? Are you speaking of choice to get a job? Are you talking about choice to get married? What choice do you keep bringing up?
All choice.
All choices. Well, that's really general. It's kind of hard to have a conversation.
Yeah. Feminism is long. There's a lot of choices. It is very general, true. Because I mean, all choices. I want women to be able to choose anything men can choose. Yes.
On a general.
Yeah, I generally want people to have opportunity to choose in most facets of their life within the bounds of like the code of law of America, I suppose. Yeah, I want women to have all of the choices that men have.
And there aren't
good one. Good job, Kyla.
Any choices that women don't have now. Men do not have more rights than I do.
Yeah, as it thanks to feminism, which is why
You're right. You're right. You're welcome, by the way. Also, not totally true because we have the Rose stuff, but you're right. You do have a lot of choices now. You're welcome, by the way. You're welcome.
Attach the
well, again, feminism of the 1950s, not feminism of today, where they are basically taking my rights. If I'm a young athlete and they're making me play sports against men, biological men, that is not fair. That is not pro-woman.
But don't you get to choose whether you're there or not?
Putting a man into my restroom and making me change in front of them is not pro-women.
Who's making you change in front of them? Who's being like, Lori, there's 7 trans women in here right now, and they all want to stare at you. Get in here. Lori, don't walk away, Lori. Get in here right now and fucking strip. Strip and squat so the trans women can all stare at you, okay? Like, what does she think is happening in bathrooms? Also, you know what I should have done? I should have gone, Lori, when's the last time you can remember knowing that there was a trans person in the bathroom? Has that ever actually happened to you? Because I wouldn't be surprised if she has almost never even experienced somebody what she can identify visibly as being a trans woman being in the same bathroom as her. I suspect it's almost never happened.
Telling me that I have to go
I get it. Trans people bad.
Well, you keep cutting me off. I just think it's gone so far, and it has hurt women. It has made us sadder. More women are depressed, and
trans women.
We need to start supporting the families. Our children need us. They don't need to be raised in daycare with DEI. They need.
DEI, bing, 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 bing. Don't know what DEI has to do with daycare, but bing, 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 daycare, DEI, let's go.
Family values.
Okay, I'm just gonna, I don't know why we're going into DEI right now.
Because it's all connected.
I think it's very telling that like the strong.
It's all a circle. It's the circle of life, okay? You start at trans and you end at DEI. Circle of life.
Rebuttal to feminism is just trans people existing. I don't think that that's rebuttal. Fourth wave intersectionalism, feminism, for example,
women
acknowledges, it's about women, right? And some of the conversations about what women is, but other conversations about things like, for example, when somebody is really understanding and empathetic, like a teacher or a nurse, they don't get the social respect, and they don't get viewed as doing a noble thing in the same way that a guy who can make a lot of money gets social respect. That would be a part of feminism, intersectional feminism, where we go, these traits that we societally view as feminine are never viewed as respect-worthy when they're deeply, deeply beautiful and respect-worthy. That's an element of fourth wave feminism that is being massively pushed by a lot of black writers. They're talking about how a mother, everyone loves their mom, but the respect for motherhood, nobody understands the level of absolute, utter self-sacrifice and dying to self that motherhood has.
I knew I was going to get them with the mother shit. God, I was like, I got to bring up moms. Because motherhood is something that I think is very tied to fourth wave feminism. I think is actually genuinely super important to talk about. And I think the way that society engages with mothers and fathers, but when we're talking about feminism, I'm going to focus on mothers, is need for update. I think it is desperately need for update. I think that the idea that mothers should only be mothers and that they die to self entirely, such as that when their children leave their home, they literally don't know who they are anymore. I actually think that that's bad. And I think it's awful that while we'll romanticize mothers and be like, oh my God, mothers, we love mothers. The reality is nobody really respects motherhood that much. Nobody looks at it as this deeply socially respectable thing. If you go out to a party with all of your friends and peers and you ask what everyone's up to, and somebody's like, oh, I'm a lawyer, a lot of people will be like, ooh, wow, crazy. Oh, I'm a doctor. Ooh, wow, crazy. If you say, I'm a stay-at-home mom, most people, unless they're in very conservative spaces, are going to be like, oh, okay, and I have nothing to talk to you about, right? That's just the reality. I've seen it for my friends that are stay-at-home moms.
To look like, but also the fact that our society has told mothers that they must do this, that if you're a mother only, right? And so many women, my mom is struggling with this right now. Her kids have left the home. Her entire identity, she's been told, was her kids. And the reality is she's like, I don't know who I am outside of my children. It's the most sad thing ever. These are parts of choice, right? So when I say choice, I agree.
Did she just say her identity should be in God? Bitch, please, come on.
That legally women by and large have the same legal choices. I think abortion is probably the last final front that we need to wrestle through. However, when it comes to social stigma and pressure, women are often still given scripts of who we ought to be. And when we step outside of those bounds, society goes, I'm not sure about that. You're kind of being a bad woman. You're a bad
freedom
woman.
in Christ. I disagree with that. But.
Well, I did want to say I do appreciate some of your points, because I think that you're willing to address the elephant in the room where it is so true with traditional women like myself. Like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool my kids, and I remember when me and my group of friends were all like having kids. They're just kind of like, so what now? Like, what are you doing? When is your kid going in daycare? And just like, what is your job? And I was like, but this is what I want. Like, this is what I want, and it shouldn't be seen as oppression. But speaking of choice, I feel like you mentioned kind of like in the 80s, 90s, where it's like the empowerment of the woman going into the workforce. I feel like it was almost like propagandized. Like, you have choice. You saw the commercials with the women with the biggest shoulder pads in the world and the power suits, and it was like, this is fierce womanhood. This is what you should aspire to. Fierce shoulder pads. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of women were kind of wrapped up in that, and obviously, like you said, looked down upon for like, what if I just do want to bake bread? Like, what's so bad about that?
She was just like super good faith. I also enjoyed that she joked with me about fierce shoulder pads.
And so I think that in a way, there has been these different iterations and evolutions of feminism that have, to me as a conservative, as a modest, Christian who believes in traditional values, I'm just like, what's happening with this, and when does it end? It feels like it doesn't end, and it just keeps evolving. And that's, I think, for people who are conservative, that's the scary thing for us, is like, how far are you willing to keep going when it keeps changing into something?
This is actually a really, really good point. Feminism is a philosophy. Philosophy doesn't end. Neither does feminism, because technology is always updating and changing. The way women interface with the world around them, what feminine means at any given culture, is always changing. That's why it doesn't go away. In the same way that men and masculinity and their understands of their place in life as a man will always be updating and changing. And I think that that's a beautiful thing.
Okay, and on that note,
just so it's clear, I'm actually for Meninism, okay? I'm totally fine with it. I think that it would actually be good if philosophers and thinkers and scholarly people spent a little bit of time of actually talking about the scripts that men occupy, the way that these scripts harm them or benefit them, and actually like had some level of like scholarly analysis of the way that their gender intersection interfaces with the world. I think that would be awesome. They don't do it. And part of why they don't do it is because maleness is kind of like the assumed default. Like, that's just the reality, is that like when we think about like the world and when we're philosophizing about the world, maleness is like a default assumption. But I actually think it needs its own intersection to be thought about and talked about and engaged with. And I think that that's glaringly obvious by the lack of updating of male scripts that we have to offer men, despite us being so much more technologically advanced, even like 30 years. Think about the updates of feminine social scripts we've done in the last 30 years that we've failed to do for young men, which I think is really sad. I think it's why so many young men are lost, is because there isn't a kind of a higher level conversation around the scripts in which men must occupy and how those scripts have to change over time, as most importantly, technology changes over time. Like, women, part of why women and their roles within life and society have changed over time is a large byproduct of technology. It just is. The preview for this prompt is, yikes, didn't age well for them.
Trump doesn't care to free Iran.
Hi.
Daniel Israeli. Yes.
Mossad, baby.
I'm Marian. I'm Shiva Bagari.
I'm Maddie. Hi, nice to meet you guys. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I think my argument would come down to, if we thought about what would I do, what would anyone reasonably do as a president if they wanted to support regime change? Because when I say free Iran, I mean regime change, obviously, right? The Ayatollah was the most evil ever. Nobody likes the Ayatollah, and nobody's sad that he's dead. My hope when Trump was moving on Iran is that he would help free the people. And there are ways to do that. He would employ things like the Green Berets, which their entire modus operandi is helping locals throw off tyranny. But instead, he has been apparently rushing to bomb them because of Israel. They didn't establish any communication, right? And so what we see instead is somebody ushering in what might inevitably become a sectarian war, which
I so regret even bringing up Israel, because I should have known by this point that if I said any buzzwords, that like thoughts would terminate. And obviously I wasn't saying that the only reason that Trump moved is exclusively because of Israel. I think that that's like a really reductive way of engaging it. Trump moved because multiple of his investors and supporters have multiple people in their back pocket that are war hawkish, that have wanted to move on Iran for a long time. And Pete Hegseth is fucking desperate to prove what a big, strong man he is, right? There's multiple reasons that they moved into Iran. Israel prompting them being one of them. But I shouldn't have even said Israel, because I should have predicted how thought terminating it was going to be for them, because they just like were literally like, say, so just blaming Israel. And I'm like, I'm not just blaming Israel. Also, I don't care about it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said Israel. I don't give a fuck. I'm not here to talk about Israel. I'm here to talk about Trump and Iran.
seems to me as somebody who's more interested in destabilizing the region than actually helping the Iranian people.
I would say blaming this on Israel is absolutely ludicrous. This idea that Trump rushed into this because of...
This girl, by the way, she seems very sweet. girl could not track the conversation. I felt like her brain turned off until it heard a key buzzword, and then she would like launch in on that. Because later on, she goes in to be like, you said Afghanistan was a good regime change. And I'm like, I said it was bad. It was a bad example of regime change. But she just heard Afghanistan and regime change. And like, that's all she focused on. It was crazy.
Israel, when you take into consideration that he had actually talked to Israel and gotten them to stop bombing Iran during the 12-day war, bringing this to a temporary end before.
Also, she looks so mad already. She's like, seems so angry. She's like, I love Israel. It's like, okay, chill.
It just went up in flames again, because ignoring evil, taking a soft approach to evil is never going to stop it. It's never going to free it. Right now, Trump, in his second term as well as in his first term, made amazing strides towards freeing Iran. In fact, he was the first U.S. president to even recognize the IRGC as a terrorist organization.
Oh, that's so helpful for Iran. Recognizing that, doing some performative labeling. Oh, why did I think of that? Why did Biden think to performatively label the IRGC a terrorist group? That would have been so helpful. Fuck.
Meanwhile, you had Democrat presidents such as Barack Hussein Obama that was really...
She really wanted to get that Hussein in there, okay? She wanted to make clear everyone knew that he was maybe a little bit of an Arab, okay? She wants to let everyone know Hussein in his middle name. Like, who else? Saddam Hussein.
billions of dollars to the IRGC. You had Joe Biden, who not only released billions of dollars, but also released to them a spy in a negotiation that went absolutely horrifically wrong for us the month before October 7th. So Trump wants to free the Iranian people, but he wants to empower them to go in and do it by taking out these military opponents. And that's exactly what we're witnessing right now. So why
are we witnessing that right now? Because it's now been a month since we filmed this, and not really seeing anything. Mostly seeing basically the regime just rebuilding itself and staying the same, and Trump being like, we won everyone, by the way. What was our goal? Having Iran maybe think about tolling the Strait of Hormuz. Fucking win. Ding, 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 ding. Crazy.
So if he wants to free the Iranian people, why on January 2nd did he tweet, if Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which their custom is, the USA will come to their rescue. We are locked, loaded, and ready to go. That was January 2nd, but we didn't get there until February 28th. Do you know how many Iranians died?
Yes, a lot of Iranians died.
How many?
Well, now it's about 80,000 that have died total.
Just from that tweet, how many died?
I don't know the number.
30,000.
Okay, so I'm from Iran originally, okay? And yes, we wanted it quick, but when you're doing military strategic, yes, thank you. For some reason, I'm having a brain fart. When you are strategic and doing things, you have to...
Strategic, like making a tweet about rising up against the government and then not showing up until 2 months later. Strategy, folks. It was 8D chess. He actually wanted the 30,000 Iranian protesters to die, because when you think about it, it's like natural selection. It's like, now you'll be left at the end with the most powerful protesters because they're not dead yet. It's like Hunger Games, but for Iranians who want to be free for the... It's just like, what is this? What is the 9D chess excuse for Trump tweeting on January 2nd, we're coming. We're locked and loaded. If the protesters rise up and Iran kills them, we are coming, and then doesn't show up for 2 months. This specific tweet, by the way, makes me so angry, because I want to be very clear. The blood of those Iranians is on Trump's hands. He should look down like Lady Macbeth every single night and see blood dripping from it, because he is at fault for those deaths. He is at fault because he encouraged the people to revolt. He said that American military were coming if they got killed. They did get killed. They got killed en masse, and he came 2 months later, well after the protest got cracked down on. Fucking disgusting. There's nothing strategic about this. This is a demented old man thinking originally about moving in, probably because Pete Hegseth or Marco Rubio or somebody suggested that they move in, made that fucking tweet without any check on any of his advisors. And then his team was like, yeah, we can't move in on our round right now. We've got to like build this up at least.
It's all timing, okay? And it's
why make that tweet at that time? Why not wait until you're
because he's letting them know. So the thing about Trump is he gives them...
He's letting them know 2 months in advance because to think about it, because like there is no logic here. Why did he make the tweet 2 months before they arrived? Why didn't he just make it 2 days before they arrived? Because he was military's complex. Again, why didn't he just, if military's complex, which it fucking is, I would grant that, why didn't he make the tweet 2 days before they arrived? Why? And you might say, well, he couldn't have tweeted before they arrived. That would have tipped off the Khomeini and his regime that they knew where he is. Then why make the fucking tweet at all? Maybe just don't make it. Crazy thought here. Maybe don't encourage people to riot with the promise that you will come in to save them and then don't show up. Maybe don't do that, actually.
He gives him an olive branch to do the right thing, which is what he always does. Here's an olive branch. I'm going to do this.
Crazy. Yeah, Trump, notorious for olive branches. Trump, the ultimate olive branch giver in diplomacy. Fucking crazy.
If you guys don't stop your nonsense. He gave him some time because otherwise...
By the way, in case anyone forgets, the first negotiations that happened, Trump struck them. Actually, on the 12 days, he struck them in the middle of negotiations. And then most recently in the negotiations, he struck them again in the middle of negotiations. He struck them before negotiations ended. So no, not actually doing diplomacy. Bad diplomacy to strike in the middle of a diplomatic arrangement. Not good, actually.
Then the liberals are going to scream and have their rallies, which they always do, but they're paid. We all know that, Neville, Roy Singham, and
I don't want to get into
the well, see, I get to talk now.
Hold on, I just wanted to hear
do the right thing, which is what he always does. Here's an olive branch. I'm going to do this if you guys don't stop your nonsense. He gave him some time because otherwise, then the liberals are going to scream and have their rallies, which they always do, but they're paid. We all know that, Neville, Roy Singham, and
I don't want to get into
the well, see, I get to talk now. It's my turn. So you, please stop talk blocking me. Okay, give me
talk blocking. A classic. Talk blocking. The classic notorious. Not so erudite. The talk blocker. I kind of like it. I like that. I like being told that I'm a talk blocker. It's my turn. It's my turn to talk, and I'm going to conspiracy post about no kings Democratic rallies.
Give me a second to respond to this because it's my turn.
Just stay on the prompt.
I'm staying on the prompt, but all this makes sense, okay? All of this is...
It's all connected. It's all connected, guys. It's all DEI, the billionaires funding Democrat rallies, trans people, Trump freeing Iran. It's all connected. Don't you see? Crazy.
Connected. We've got the heiress of Walmart funding these No Kings rallies. We've got Neville Roy Singham also funding these rallies. The real rallies are the ones at the federal building. Have you been there with the Iranian people? Have you been there? Because we're all happy. Us Iranians, you don't speak for us. I was born there. My family lives there.
You don't speak for us. I get to speak for us. Actually, nobody really gets to speak for them except for global polling. Were some Iranians very happy with Trump? Yeah, a lot of, especially the diaspora. And then increasingly, since, he's fucking flopped, they've been less happy. Also, were the Iranians in Iran happy with Trump? They were probably excited about the Ayatollah being killed, probably not so excited about the schoolgirls getting murdered. I'm sure they had some mixed feelings about that. And then as time has progressed and Trump has been fucking useless and been taking out civilian infrastructure, they're probably a little bit less enthused with him, which is my fucking point, because my whole point is that Trump doesn't care about the Iranian people. So stop pretending. I fucking hate when people try to be like, they're my people, so I get to speak on behalf of all of them. You don't. You get to speak on behalf of you and what you want and what your friends want. You don't get to speak on behalf of all of Iran. Sorry.
You don't speak for us. We are very happy with President Trump. We're very happy about what he...
There's many Iranians that are angry.
No, there's not many Iranians.
There is.
That's a lie. We are sick...
Speaking of things that didn't age well, this...
Iranian people, my half-sister lives there, my family lives there. We're sick of white liberals telling us about Iran and its people. We love...
Look at this chick fucking nodding. White liberal. They just love this, by the way. They love whipping out the race card so much. It's fucking absurd. It's like, I don't know what me being a white liberal has to do with whether or not Iranians like Trump. I can be right or wrong irrespective of my skin color, actually. We can talk about when intersectionality of me as a person of white skin, for example, should and should not talk about it. For example, when I was on a black versus white versus biracial panel, I didn't talk a lot because it was mostly about experiencing racism and systemic oppression. And the reality is can't really speak to that. It's mostly about your personal experiences. I'm not going to talk about the personal experiences of being black, but I do get to talk about things we can pull. Are Iranians happy with Trump's performance in Iran right now? Not so much. Not super happy about it.
We're sick of white liberals telling us about Iran and its people. We love Benjamin Netanyahu and we love President Trump for what they did. They want to name cities after these people in Iran.
I'm sure that's not true.
So please don't speak for us.
Maybe you do.
And what he did was strategic because with military operations, they have to have a structure and a plan. You don't go and do something and not know.
You're right. You should have a plan. Like, for example, not tweeting 2 months before that you're coming. That would be one good plan. Actually, probably not tweeting at all about your military plans of intervention on Iran would be a better strategy. Probably don't want any of that in the public, specifically because the timing and getting the accurate location of Khamenei when he's like out and about in a way where you can strike him and his leaders and not hit civilians is really fucking difficult, actually. So you probably don't want any public discourse about it until you do the strike, I would assume. And you definitely don't want it 2 months before. There's no point in that.
What you're doing. You have to have a plan. You have to have intelligence to know where to hit, so they don't hit places that have a lot of civilians. So
this is why it's such an obnoxious argument of being like, well, you have to have a plan. Okay, just put yourself in the sure, there's lots we don't know. Do you think if you wanted to free Iran, one of the things you would do is tweet to encourage protests and promise them that you're coming and not show up 2 months later? Do you think there would ever be a part of your plan? Is there any world we can reasonably conceive of that was part of any military strategic plan? Because frankly, I can't. Frankly, what it was a demented man excited because he was hearing about the grumblings that they might be moving in on Iran soon and tweeted about it because he has no regard for the impact of his words. He has no regard for the actual seriousness of what the Iranian people are experiencing because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about Iranians. He wanted a fun tweet. That's it. He was probably super happy about how viral it went.
You're thinking in a very irrational way. Okay, he thinks in a very rational.
He showed up and obliterated the IRGC 2 months after he promised he'd show up. Frankly, if I'm expecting backup and they come 2 months later, I'm at least saying you're a little late. I might even say, yeah, you're not actually backup. Okay, your parents coming 2 months after they're supposed to pick you up from soccer practice. I don't think you'd say that they did come. You'd say they didn't fucking come. It doesn't matter. They're like, well, 2 months later, I did show up to where you said you were going to be to pick you up. Nobody gives a fuck, actually. That's not showing up on time.
That's why when he took down those nuclear facilities, not a single casualty, okay? It takes time to do that. Otherwise, you do kill a lot of civilians.
Okay, there's a lot there. I don't think my race has anything to do with this conversation, respectfully.
Yes, it does.
I don't think it does, right? I've talked to diaspora extensively. I've been very heavily interested and passionate about specifically Iran. Since October 7th, I went to Israel. Actually, I've talked to officials in these lands. So the idea that I'm just like in some bubble and I have no idea what I'm talking about, and you assuming that because of my skin is...
No, you believed Israel.
Simultaneously, there are two things that can be true.
Why does my skin color have to do with... First of all, I didn't blame Israel. I said that Israel incentivized us moving in, which they did, right? And second of all, why does me being white have anything to do with me talking about Israel?
Iranian people are delighted to see the evils of the Ayatollah punished and him killed.
I don't know why I didn't just clarify and be like, I didn't blame Israel. I didn't blame Israel.
And his leaders killed and them decimated. That's true, and I stand with Iran on that. I have no problem with the strikes that killed the Ayatollah. I think they are only good because he needed to die, and the people had been trying for years to free themselves, but you can't when they have guns and weapons and chemical gases against sticks and stones. So my empathy towards Iran being so excited at the hope of change is completely valid. My frustration is only with Trump. And the issue is that if you want regime change, we have the techniques for that. We already have this. Do you know what the motto of the Green Berets is? Does anybody know? It's de oppressor liber, to free the oppressed. The entire purpose of the Green Berets, the core mission is called unconventional warfare. They go into local populations, empower them to fight tyranny. One of the issues facing Iran right now, because of the way that he managed the strikes, is that there's no way to collectivize the people. There's no internet, there's no person, and they still have no weapons. If this was something Trump wanted, the American military could have achieved this. But instead, he sent out an errant tweet 2 months before an invasion, which led the people thinking that help was coming soon. It came 2 months later. If he wanted to be tactical and smart, if he wanted to free the Iranians, you'd make that tweet 2 days before you kill the Ayatollah, so that as their uprisings are coming up, you can send in Green Berets to support them, and you can mobilize the population to take back their country.
So here's the thing about the timeline that you're speaking about, right? One thing you haven't mentioned is the fact that Trump met with the leaders of Iran 2 days before the strikes, okay? Trying yet again to reach another peace.
It was 5 days. Kushner met with them for about 5 days. And then in the middle of the time of him meeting with them, they just started striking because they had 2 weeks of pause. They were going to have 2 weeks of negotiation, and they just in the middle of it did it. If you're having issues on the Twitch side, you're going to have to refresh. It's Twitch side. It's not my side. I'm so sorry.
Treaty with them, and they just are not negotiable.
Well, Kushner met with them.
Okay, agreed. Yes, but the Trump administration, right?
Did the negotiations end, or did they strike before the ending window of negotiations? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure.
Don't you think you might need to know that? Does that not change your mind at all? Like, it's insane for to be like, I mean, he was meeting with them. Okay, he violated a negotiation agreement and started striking them in the midst of negotiations. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, be serious. You're so incredibly unserious. The level of fucking flipping over backwards to justify his actions in Iran, especially now when we are all watching this a month out being like, yeah, this shit's fucking stupid and a massive waste of money and doesn't seem to be helping the Iranian people, is absurd. There is no justification for that tweet. There isn't one. It is evil. It is evil. It condemned so many people to death for no fucking reason. Good people who wanted to free their country. It is disgusting.
So they gave 2 weeks for negotiation and they struck in the middle of it.
Well, from my understanding, they were meeting up until the Thursday before that strike, okay? The other thing to acknowledge is that what you're saying is they should have sent people into the ground, the Green Berets, to go into the ground and help the people. We're talking about a tyrannical regime. If you think that these people, our side, would get into the place where they can actually reach the people without extreme opposition, you're making things up.
No, this is what
getting rid of their ability to fight back, right?
Crazy to say you're making stuff up on what the Green Berets fucking do. Actually crazy talk. Like, probably she's never even thought about I'd be surprised if she knew anything about the Green Berets other than like that they might exist. Insane.
Stunting them.
On the plus side, haven't heard about trans people yet. So W's for this prompt. Not a single mention of trans people so far. Or DEI, I don't think there's been any DEI mention either.
First is a good thing for the Iranian people. It gives them, even if they don't have someone right now to jump in and take over. Look at what happened in Venezuela, right? We took out Maduro and then
reestablished the regime. Yes, true.
Exactly. So
that's bad, actually.
I agree, but
exactly. Yeah, we took out Maduro and then we replaced him with this same regime. You're like, sorry, how is that an argument to what you're saying? That's a negative thing. That's the opposite of what we want.
Agree. My point is we can't assume that taking away one leader and doing it calmly and peacefully will give the everyday people the chance to immediately rise up. When we hit them hard and we hit them to a total desecrated place, at the very least, they're too stunned to retaliate against their people.
Are you saying that you don't believe the Green Berets can do what the Green Berets are trained to do? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not. I completely support our military.
No. The Green Berets could definitely do what they could do. Just not in Iran.
Saying there's no way they can go into Iran.
I'm saying that, hold on, I'm saying that Iran is a very specific case.
Why can the Green Berets be Green Berets everywhere but in Iran? Why?
We need to put
Why can the Green Berets go to Afghanistan, Iraq, most other countries? We have Green Berets. We have Green Berets. We have Green Berets everywhere that we're trying to do this type of work in. Why can't they get what makes Iran impenetrable in a way that China or Russia or North Korea is not?
I think you're missing the whole point here. Okay. The war in Iraq, when we did do regime change and we took Saddam, I was against the war in Iraq. You know who else was against the war in Iraq? Israel. You know what they said back then? Iran was always.
I don't care what Israel. I can't. I so bungled this by saying the word Israel. God. The level of fucking derangement that entered the conversation because I said the word Israel is fucking absurd. This is the issue with Israel. You can't mention it around the Zionists or the Groypers, okay? Everyone's brain fucking melts. You say the word Israel and they're just like, the JQ. Or they're just like, Israel can do no wrong. They're justified in all of their actions. It's just like, actually stop. Actually fucking breathe. We can think about this a little bit, guys. We could do it. I believe in us.
The bigger threat. Saddam was the manageable threat. It's not about regime change. It's not about just killing the heads up and saying we have our new guy. Iran is far more complicated. And what you're failing to understand is that the Middle East does not respond to diplomacy.
What you're failing to forget is these fucking angry Arabs can't do talky talk. All right? Angry Arabs only understand whamba-blamps. Okay? I don't know why you never thought of that, Miss Not So Erudite. Maybe it's because you're not so erudite. Fucking got you, liberal. Get wrecked.
Responds to deterrence. It responds to an element of surprise. Hold on. The other thing you are failing not to acknowledge is that former adversaries like Bahrain, like the UAE, are actually helping Israel. Excuse me.
I can't believe she'll say, you can't do diplomacy with Arabs. And then also goes, also, the diplomacy we've done with Egypt and Bahrain has led to benefits for Israel. It's like, it's almost like, and hear me out, crazy thought, you can do diplomacy even with people of the Muslim faith. Crazy thought here. But you did it once, and then you did it twice, and then you did it 3 times, and now you've actually done it 4 times. Okay, so I think you can actually do diplomacy with Arab people. Crazy hot take here, okay?
Israel is an ally of America. These are the shared enemies. Iran openly says death to America. First Saturday, the Jews, then Sunday, the Christians. So to say this is for Israel, no. A strong America is a strong ally in Israel. This is a strategic situation. This is not a war. We're only several weeks in.
Number 2 of things that really didn't fucking age well. We're not at a war. Only a few weeks in. We're gonna be out of there and wham bam blam, okay? Simultaneously, out of one side of my mouth, this is a very complex situation that you can't possibly understand. Out of the other side, it's not a war though, and we'll be out of there quick. Okay, sure, Jan. Tell that to your future self. Good job, Daniela. Number 1 prize in. You definitely don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
This is all minutia. Trump is a strategic guy. He plays chess.
I should have bet her money. I should have been like, want to bet me $200 that Trump is still in Iran and still fucking around with Iran in like a month's time? I should have said by the time this video comes out. Oh, that would have been so good. Oh, imagine if I had the smarts to do that.
Not checkers. Amen. He literally said 4 to 5 weeks give me. You haven't even given him that. I trust Trump. I trust his track record. I trust the 12-day war of Operation Midnight Hammer. I trust that he was able to bring back all 20 hostages and ended the Gaza war. I trust...
End of the Gaza war, which, by the way, we're still bombing Gaza. He ended the Gaza war, which is still going on because Hamas is still there. And he ended the Lebanese war, which is still going on because Hezbollah is still there. And he's ended the Iran war, which is not actually a war because he destroyed the IRGC, even though the IRGC is still in power. But we're pretty sure that the new IRGC leader, even though we killed his dad and his wife and his sons and most of his friends, and he's already openly said he is more willing to be physically, violently hostile towards America, I actually think that we're in a better place of negotiation with Iran. Guys, we're killing it. Destroyed.
So much of his track record with the Abraham Accords that he knows what he's doing. Thank you.
So if you talk to most Israeli officials, diplomacy is essential to peace. Why do they have a relationship with Egypt? Aggressive economic relationships. That's what they pursue. Bahrain as well, UAE. Einat Wilf, she's a very important diplomat. I've spoken with her extensively. You've got multiple diplomats that will tell you that peace will get established in the Middle East dominantly through economic trade.
Not with Iran.
I agree, not with Iran. But I've never said that I'm opposed to the killing of the Ayatollah. What I have said here specifically is that I care about Iran genuinely being free. And my fear and my belief is that Trump doesn't. He just cares about it being destabilized because a destabilized Iran achieves America's same goals. It reduces the oil going to China and it reduces the amount of ability for them to support things like Hezbollah and the Houthis, right? But I care about genuinely having regime change. You're right, regime change often fails. But we know actually why regime change has often failed because it's also succeeded in the past. We have South Korea, we have Japan, we have all of the Eastern Bloc. So regime change has been successful by American Green Berets in the past.
With countries who don't want to kill us.
Japan didn't want to kill U.S.? Oh, wait, Pearl Harbor. Oh, shoot.
Fucking got her. Fucking got her. Regime change is only successful in countries that already want to be our allies. Then why are we doing regime change? What are you talking about? What is that? It's crazy. Is this sped up? Yeah, it is sped up. They talk very slow. I can't. I'm sorry. I watch things at like 2 times speed minimum, typically. Ooh, fucking got her. Also, you'll hear some laughter, by the way, when I say the Pearl Harbor thing. It's the production team that's laughing.
With countries who don't want to kill us.
Japan didn't want to kill U.S.? Oh, wait, Pearl Harbor. Oh, shoot. Rip.
I think that it's interesting that you use Afghanistan as an example, rather, when
Okay, now that I'm watching this back, I literally didn't say Afghanistan. Girl's just not here. Madeline is like literally like, she's sitting there being like, la 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 la, I love Trump, la 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 la. Oh, it's my time to talk? Thing you didn't say. Up yours, woke moralist. Fuck yeah.
Afghanistan was a catastrophic failure, and the abysmal pullout by President...
Look at her nodding too. Oh my God, she's so stupid for saying Afghanistan was... Sorry. I don't know what ghosts are in your mind right now. Nobody said Afghanistan was a good thing. Nobody said that. Not even for a second. I was like, I must have mentioned Afghanistan and it like triggered her brain. Now that I've watched it a second time through, I literally didn't even do that. It's fucking absurd.
Joe Biden left 13 of our service members deceased, I believe. So that's a strange thing to use as an example of
It's an example of bad regime change. Yeah,
well,
that was
no,
unsuccessful.
Then maybe I misunderstood you because you.
No, Madeline, now that we've watched it back, you weren't here. You were in a fucking other planet because nobody was talking about Afghanistan at all. You just made it up. You just like self-created an existence. I don't know what fucking spirits you need to cast out. Maybe you need to go back to your church and ask for the demons to be cast out because they're whispering to you, baby girl. They're just fucking in your ears saying shit that nobody is saying and isn't happening in this world.
Citing it as an example of regime change by America.
No, not as a good example. I said there's types of regime changes. There's been unsuccessful and successful ones. Okay. Afghanistan's a good example of an unsuccessful regime change.
That's not what it sounded like you were saying.
Okay, yeah, I can clarify that.
With Syria,
damn, I was so nice about it too. Okay, I can clarify. I would have never said, because I'm not fucking stupid, that Afghanistan is a good example of regime change.
Look and see what happened. We have Jolani, who's a terrorist in a suit that came in and took over. So you have to be very careful about how you're operating, especially when you're in the Middle East, about not creating a power vacuum where these bad actors can then re-step in.
I agree.
So having military on the ground, American military on the ground, potentially creates this opportunity where there'd be long-term American occupation, which is something most Americans are against, and we don't need it. President Trump said back in 2020 in an interview with the Washington Post that his main goal when it comes to Iran is freeing the Iranian people, but he wants to do that through empowering them, which is what they've been at.
Oh, he said he was for the Iranian. How did I not think of the fact that in 2020, Trump said he wanted to free the Iranian people? I'm so silly. She's right. Actually, Trump does care about the Iranian people. He said it. He said it, guys.
For. We have to understand that when you're dealing with complex military issues like this, you're not going to be privy to all of the information. We don't know exactly what Trump's planning. We don't know the timelines. We know certain things like Khomeini.
We don't know God's plan. Okay, we can't know God's plan, but God has a plan. Like, this is how she's talking. This is how they're unironically talking about Trump right now. We don't know his plan. You know, he works in mysterious and wonderful ways, but I trust that he does have a plan. Maybe don't. Maybe when he keeps failing you over and over and over and very clearly doesn't even have concepts of a plan, maybe bail. Maybe bail out, actually. Maybe don't make him your Messiah. He did know his plan. He tweeted it 2 months in advance. True.
Doom 30,000 protesters to death and come in 2 months later.
So those protesters were already dying from the very start when President...
Oh, they were already dying? I wish I would have thought of that. You're right. Now his tweet, totally innocuous. He wasn't in all implicated in the further protests that happened immediately in response to his tweets, okay? He's just a silly little guy. He's not like the president of America saying, if Iran kills protesters, we're locked and loaded, we're coming, we got you guys. That means nothing anyways.
Trump had gotten involved and said that help was on the way, and he meant it, and he delivered on that promise. But we have to understand that when you're dealing with an intense military operation like that,
you can't tweet 2 months later. You have to tweet now.
You have to line up everything to be perfect.
You have to line up everything to be perfect, to precise. Okay, it's a military practice. It's extremely difficult. You can't just do it in the snap of a finger, which is why he had to tweet that random fucking shit out 2 months before he rolled up and have 30,000 protesters killed as a result. He has to. It's part of the plan. How did they not know this?
How is the tweet
when you
lined
have
up?
a terrorist rat, when you have a terrorist rat hiding in a tunnel like Khomeini, you have to find out exactly where he is. You have to make sure that you're not going to be jeopardizing a large amount of civilian casualties.
True. Rip the girls, I guess. Rip the children.
You have to make sure that the American military is prepared. Israel had to reinforce their air defense system because we know that Iran was going to attack their civilians, which they have been, causing a mass casualty event yesterday because Iran targets civilians and Israel needed to be prepared for that, as did our other allies, like we saw with the Strait of Hormuz. So I understand that you live in this...
Don't talk about my life.
I'm not speaking about your life.
You absolutely were. I know that you live in this... She was about to say bubble. She was about to say a bubble. Fucking... Get off my shit. Get off my goddamn dick. You want to ride my life so hard? Okay, either hop on or get off. But personally, I'm straight. So hop off my dick. Stop assuming things about my fucking life, especially when you aren't even tracking the conversation. When you're just having demons whispering in your ears about Afghanistan, okay? Get off of it. Don't say shit about me.
I'm understanding that from your mentality, you seem to think that you could snap your fingers and free Iran. It doesn't work like that.
Imagine having this conversation at this point where I have demonstrated at least sufficient knowledge of the complexities of the current modern powers in the area. I have outlined the mission of Green Berets. I've outlined knowledge of successful. I've clearly demonstrated a decently comprehensive and nuanced and sophisticated interpretation of how like regime change works and how complicated it is and how this is a difficult situation. It's fucking crazy to have that conversation happen and go, you just think it can happen on a snap of a finger. Again, baby girl, Madeline, the demons, they're talking to you. You gotta cast them out in Jesus' name, okay?
Okay, nobody here has ever said for a second that this would be simple. Let me tell you about regime change that fails and succeeds, because the theory has it. You need a strong middle class and high educated populace and a psychological will. Guess what Iran has? All those things. Guess what Iraq and Afghanistan didn't have? Any of those things. Also, why it didn't work in Afghanistan is because we didn't work with local populations. We didn't send in Green Berets nearly quick enough. And when we did, there was major successful pushes at the Taliban. The problem with the regime change is that we pulled out the Green Berets and sent in people who can't do what they do. Okay? If you have this tactical...
No, I don't know anything about this, but you're wrong because it doesn't work with my worldview.
And I agree, there's all these complexities. You need to understand all of the details that go into war. There's no justification for sending a tweet promising help 2 months before it comes. It is unjustifiable, fundamentally. There's no good reason for it. And you can't use the God of the gaps of, well, I'm sure he had a reason. Tell it to the 30,000 dead.
Boom!
Kyla, no worries. My next prompt is...
She said my name wrong. I hate it when people say my name wrong. It's a trigger.
Christianity is liberal.
That's what I think is like, this prompt is just, I'm preloading it. I've obviously been there. I've already watched it once. When I told Nick before we watched it, I was like, I don't think I did very well in this prompt. And we watched it and we're like, yeah, nothing, no substantive conversation. Like, we just didn't. I would just be like, this is what liberalism is. And they're like, huh, your woke agenda? And I'm like, nope, not a woke agenda, just liberalism. And they're like, huh, you want trans kids. And I was like, again, just talking about liberalism. I don't care about Democrats. And they're like, yeah, well, fuck you. Poor Eden. Poor Eden. Eden's really cool. I liked her a lot. And she's stuck on this panel with like fucking Lori. And I think her name was Tish. Yeah, fucking crazy ass losers.
Tish. Eden. Nice to meet you guys. So what I mean by this more specifically, because I wanted to have a really succinct prompt, but obviously this is a complicated topic. I don't actually think God is any political branch, obviously. I think liberalism is in the direction of what God wants. I think it's more in his direction, which is why I say Christianity is liberal, but obviously God is well beyond liberalism.
This is easily probably the worst prompt because just nothing happens. And by this point, I had chilled because it's like, so I think it was that one. At one point, Shiva like got up and got really angry at the producer about like how much I was interrupting. So I think it was the prompt before where she did that. It's obviously cut out. But by this point, I'm just trying to like interrupt them less and like hold their feet to the fire a little bit less, which frankly, I don't know. I'm of two minds. I think if they're being like obnoxious like this, I think it's better if I hold their feet to the fire. And then with the feminism one, they were like much more like chill and good faith. I think it's better to be like chill and good faith. How much of college girls getting flown to Dubai? Yeah. Did I wash my hands? Of course I washed my, I don't know why I'm showing you. You wouldn't be able to know. It's like, they're wet right now. But yes, I wash my hands. I'm not disgusting. I'm not a man, okay? I wash my hands and I wipe my butt.
Beyond any political system.
Okay, define liberalism real quick.
Yeah, so by liberalism, I mean protection of equality of rights and liberties of people, strong institutions that separate balances of power, and a strong social safety network. Yeah.
So when you look into the actual definition of liberalism, the number one value is individuality. And then on top of it, we have intersectionality.
Okay. Individuality is correct. And also, it took me so long to get to a good response to this, which is like, Christianity is not anti-individuality. I don't even know where that comes from. No liberal would say that intersectionalism is a key part of liberalism. It's fucking its own thing. Intersectionalism is intersectionalism. Hold on, I gotta show you, okay? We're gonna look up the Wikipedia. We'll do it live. Liberal definition. Let's just do Wikipedia. Wikipedia. Okay, so rights of the individual, sure. Let's look up anything. Let's see if we can even find intersectional. Intersectional. Nope. Literally nowhere. Just fucking made shit up. Well, I looked up the definition and it said intersectionalism. Yeah? Probably not. Where? Did you find it on like one probably she just looked up some shit on like Candace Owens' fucking website and was like, dunked.
And what is really confusing about the concept of Christianity being liberal, or just the overall idea that God himself is more aligned with liberal values, is the entire Bible, the whole gospel is repent and surrender yourself to the leadership of
Classic surrender. The opposite of being an individual. Individuals cannot surrender. Only collectivized groups can. Like, I don't know why I didn't catch on to this and be like, what does submission have to do with being antithetical to individuality? Like, what's happening right now at all? It's crazy. In vast general, was it a civil conversation? I mean, yeah, it just like wasn't substantive, because by and large, the conservatives just like didn't talk about anything, meaning they just like never responded to me. They like yelled at ghosts of liberals past that have scarred them.
So there is no individualism in Christianity. We are now we are now slaves to righteousness, right? Liberalism tells people, do whatever you want and we'll support it. We need all of this.
Is that liberalism? Just do whatever you want and we'll support it? Is that really it? I think liberalism is just saying you have certain rights and freedoms within our nation state that we protect through fiat. It doesn't say do whatever you want and we'll support it. In fact, lots of things liberals won't support. Like, you know, murder, except of babies. We love murdering babies, all of them. As many babies as possible, especially conservative babies. We do our best.
Diversity of thought, and that's a good thing. Instead, Christianity says you need to be of one mind. There shouldn't be this bickering in between you, and you are no longer your own self. Now you are to, what does it say? No, but you have to carry your cross, deny yourself. Liberalism says
deny yourself can happen at an individual. Why is this collectivism? Also, why does she want collectivism? Are conservatives like super afraid of collectivism? They're like, that's commie shit.
Celebrate yourself. So how do you respond to that? I think they're just at complete odds.
I would say, so it feels like you're baking in like maybe like progressive cultural stuff. With
I literally Googled what are the liberal values.
No liberal would say intersectional. So as a liberal, we wouldn't say intersectionality is liberalism. Intersectionality is intersectionality. It's more associated with progressive movements, right? Liberals can like it, but it's not the same thing. So when I'm talking about liberalism, I'm talking about rights and freedoms, like equal before law, all these types of things, and liberties, like you should have access to the things that you would like to access. I'm talking about strong institutions because they protect civilians, they protect people, they keep things equal and fair, ideally, and a welfare net to take care of our vulnerable and our most need, right? You said that the Bible is about surrender. As a Christian, our walk of faith is about surrender to Christ. It's about constantly seeking him above our own predilections, constantly. But what does he command us to act out into the world? What does he tell us to do to non-Christians? It is to care for the refugee. It is to take care of the widow and the orphan, right? In the previous conversation, we were talking extensively about Christianity is the burgeoning place of charity, of seeing others outside of my blood-born family and saying, you matter in the eyes of God, and we love you for that. And my concern right now is that the conservative movement, particularly under Trump, and the way that Christian conservatives operate, there is a fixation on sin, and there is a loss and forgetfulness of what it means to be equal before God.
If I could, just really quickly, I just want to note, and I promise I will put it to you, but the thing that comes to my mind is, you know, people constantly talk about taking care of the poor, and I firmly believe in that, right? Like I founded a nonprofit, okay? So I've done my work. However, the Bible says, let he who does not work not eat. And what we...
God, this is such a bad argument. God actually says that if you don't work, nobody's gonna feed you. No food for you, spaghetti goo. It's just like, children? What about children? Should children work for their hard-earned yachts? It's just so stupid. It's also, this is the shit I hate about Christian. I have no idea like what she's citing here, but when Christians will just take like literally one little line, it'll probably be like half of a verse, and they'll be like, that's what God says, and you're like, what's the context of that? What's going on in the chapter? What's the story here? Like, what are we talking about? It's actually biblical deconstructionism, where they just take like one little verse and they'd be like, see, that's what God's saying. It's just like, please, girl, stop. That's not what this is for. It's not how these books were written. Please stop. Okay, relax.
On the conservative side have noticed is that our social systems have been abused by people who do not want to work. So I think my frustration is to suggest that it is that we should lean more towards liberalism as Christians just because of this concept of helping others, and ignore the fact that the Bible says you need to also be a contributing member of society so that it all works together. We don't have takers and givers.
When God said he who doesn't work shall not eat, he's probably not talking about kids, right?
Children can't work. What do you mean?
But we should still feed them, right?
Right.
Of course. And if somebody has no legs and is blind and deaf, okay, should we take care of that person?
But that's okay.
Should a mentally ill person be taken care of?
I don't think that the Conservative Party would suggest that we don't take care of those people. What we are saying is that
Well, when you say let him who does not work not eat, it feels like you might need a few more qualifiers there then, because it sounds like that isn't a universal didactic law that you would like to impose.
Because our system, we're not stripping it. We're telling people that if you are not one of those people that you suggested, if you're not actually in need, then it is unfair for you to be receiving these
60% of people who receive
of the
SNAP
others
are
that
children.
should.
I just want to add.
Oh, I should have like held her to the, I need to hold their feet to the fire more when there's like four. I let them like run away into each other a lot. First of all, I need to be better at playing panelists against each other. Like being like, when I find like the reasonable panelist, be like, sure, you can say that, but this is like, Lori said some batshit. She says that she's on your same team. You have to recognize that this is the team that you're playing for, even on this own panel. So either denounce Lori and call her a dumbass, or defend it, which you certainly don't want to defend it. I should have done a lot more of that. But also, like, Eden now is going to bail out Miriam, because Miriam doesn't want to answer that question, because it's a very good counter argument, right? 60% of children, of recipients of SNAP, were children. What are you going to do about that?
These things, taking care of the widows, taking care of the orphans, this was prescribed to the church. This was not prescribed to the government.
Exactly.
Sure, but I would add to here, Christianity isn't a prescription of politics at all. Jesus wasn't political. The Jews killed him. No, he was not.
He said to contend for people in the public square. He totally said that.
He said contend for people in the public square. He said engage in talk in free speech. Sorry, is that what we're talking about right now? Because right now you're talking about the institution of the church should replace all of social governmental welfare. So does God have an opinion on that? Because I'm talking about governmental state, not just the expression of free speech within a nation state, which, yes, Jesus did. I have no problem with that.
Speech is not, so participating in free speech is not the same thing as being a messianic king who restores Judea and Samaria, which is what the Jews wanted him to do. And he rejected doing that. He consistently, every time actual political office is offered to him, he rejects it.
That wasn't his calling, babe.
It's none of our callings. You're right. It's none of our callings.
And that's why he called the church to be the facilitators of these things. I agree.
A state can't
to pick this up and do it, but it's not the government's obligation.
What if it wants to? Is that okay?
The government wants to. Everybody disagrees.
Well,
That's why we see so much fraud in the debt that she keeps talking about.
That's not why we don't see fraud because people disagree, Lori. We see fraud because people do fraud. Oh my God. Please track the conversation. Nothing about the people voting for welfare has to do with just people also do fraud. Different conversation, Lori. Welcome to the conversation, Lori.
I want her to respond because I don't want to
I just want you to talk about loving children. I mean, loving people. We do love Christians do, and churches do love people, and they love moms. That's why they fight for the unborn. I don't believe that.
Oh, I should not have let her run away. Actually,
moms.
Christians love
That's
moms.
why they fight for the.
I don't know if you've thought about that, but Christians, they love mothers. What the fuck does that have to do with anything we've just been talking about? Like, it's literally just like jumping from topic to topic to topic. Coward. Yeah, I'm such a coward because I don't like racism on my channel. Crazy. Bye. Get fucked, loser. Okay.
A liberal, they have abortions. They are not pro-life. They have abortions all the time.
Yeah,
that is something that a Christian.
You know, liberals just loving abortions. They just run it. They actually have abortion parties where they collectively plan to be bred by men so that they can then later go and abort it together, and they like hold hands and they're like, oh, I'm bleeding out of my vagina. It's fucking awesome. Haven't you done that? Liberal women? Haven't you had your abortion parties recently?
Does not do. So I don't, when you say a Christian should not. Yes, have an
but
abortion.
Christians will kick out their trans and queer kids, whereas liberal, non-Christian parents embrace them and love their children.
Because now you're easing into what is love, right? We know on this side, we're talking about
rejecting your child is love.
No, corrective love is love.
Rejecting your child is love.
See, this is where I just kind of followed them where they went. I really should have held them to a topic. Like, I really should have been like, hold on, Trish, before you do that, I need her to answer the tough question that she just ran away from.
Affirming is not love. Affirming.
Well, you have to believe in a trans kid. I believe God created us man and woman.
Exactly.
And I do think just like anorexia nervosa, it's a mental illness.
Do you kick anorexia nervosa patients out of your house? If your child is anorexia nervosa, do you kick her out? What? Sorry, Lori, we're talking about kicking your children out. Do you do that with people? Even if we granted you that it's a mental illness, do you do that with any other mental illness? Like, oh, oh, you have major depression? Get out of my house. Not good enough. Unclean, unclean. No, Christians do that with fucking trans and gay kids because Christians are obsessed. They're fucking obsessed with like one sin, particularly one sin, while being utterly blind to all the rest of it happening. Which, by the way, there's probably more theological arguments for gluttony being a sin than for being trans as a sin. Just want to put that out there. There's way more clear examples of gluttonous people being sinful over trans people being sinful. Just haven't heard many people kicking their kids out for gluttony anytime recently. At least I've not heard of it. But, you know, go off, Lori. Tell us about kicking out your anorexia nervosa child.
Has always been a mental illness, but now we're being told to affirm them. Now it's almost become a trend in the schools, just like it was when I was a kid and everybody was dressing up like Madonna.
Just you, Lori. I think just you. I think just you were dressing up like Madonna. I don't know where that comes from.
The whole thing where, you know, the DEI, where if you are a white boy in school, you are an oppressor and the minorities are the oppressed. Well, where can that kid turn? Well, if I become trans, then I'm oppressed too.
Oh my goodness. Every white boy's greatest dream, being trans. Every white boy is like, Mommy, can you put back on that Marvel movie about a big, strong man becoming a woman? It's just, I can't wait for it to be me someday. Like, what? You know how young boys don't work? They don't look around and like, man, life sucks and I'm getting bullied a lot. You know what I'll do? Be trans. Who do you think gets bullied more? Young random white kids, boys, or a trans kid? Any guesses? Any takers on the question? Because I know where I'm putting my money on who's going to get bullied systematically way more often.
What do you think is more socially stigmatized? A random white guy walking around or a trans person?
Toxic masculinity.
Off the prompt.
Yeah. Oh, I should have made her answer this, but she was obviously trying to say, oh, toxic masculinity. Sorry, are you saying that white men get oppressed more than trans kids? Like, come on. Come on. Are we being so for real? You might hate trans people, but you have to agree everyone else does too. Like, you have to agree with that, right? You have to agree that, like, they're probably the most stigmatized group, right?
I just want to say Christianity says God defines truth. Liberalism says man defines truth. And that's just to bring it back to the prompt.
Yeah. Christianity is about the...
What? I was like, what? Does liberalism say man defines truth? Does it say that? I mean, liberalism embraces the scientific method, I suppose. I would argue Christians should too. I don't know. It's so strange.
66 books of the Bible, loving man, loving people.
Sorry, are we opposed to liberal political order then? Because liberal political order isn't Christian politically?
We are all conservative. Jesus isn't Democrat or Republican.
I've already said this, but I've said liberalism. So you said, well, it says liberalism says that you know the value of man is in man alone. That's what the founding fathers said, right? Where did they get that idea from? Do you know?
They got it from the Bible.
Yeah, they did. But why did they not put it in Christian language?
Why did
the founding fathers not put it in Christian language? Why did they say it's from man alone? Why did they separate it? You know?
Read the Federalist Papers, you know, read.
I have.
Yeah, you know, and on our.
Lori's like, I don't know who the writers are, but I bet you the Federalist Papers agree with me somewhere. Probably. They probably love Jesus. Probably somewhere.
What is it? In God we trust.
Yeah, but we're born out of Christianity.
The liberalism, again, as she was saying, is the I am this, I am great. God said, humble yourself before the Lord that I may lift you up. God doesn't care if you're liberal.
Liberalism isn't narcissism. What is this? Liberalism says you're awesome. Does it? I don't know. Have you ever spent like a weekend with liberals? Okay. One of the things you'll not discover is liberals act like your emotionally cold dad. Okay. You will know if like a dogged liberal likes you because they'll like do acts of service for you and they won't insult you as harshly as they critique each other. Okay. Liberals are not notorious for being so cushy and lovey and just yes manny. Okay. That's not really what they're known for.
Or conservative. God cares about your heart. God cares about having a personal relationship with you. We will always fall short of the glory of God. I can tell you in my own life personally, 6 months ago, my husband ended up with glioblastoma, terminal brain cancer.
Sorry to hear that.
And I can tell you, the Lord has shown me miracles.
Get ready, okay? We're going on another Lori. Lori loves roller coasters, okay? She's a fun gal. She's full of excitement and joy and delight and whimsy, okay? And we're about to go on Lori's roller coaster of whatever the fuck this story is that has nothing to do with anything we're talking about. But it's cute, okay? Enjoy.
He is close to the brokenhearted and those that are contrite in spirit. And I've literally heard his voice. I have had him talk to me. One day, I'm sitting there. I got my husband into the Soon-Shion clinic. NK cell therapy. I'm now advocating for cancer patients. I freaking wake up in the morning, our arms tied, and I'm mad at Kennedy. So don't say I can't go the other way with the Maha movement. They have blocked therapies for cancer patients because of Big Pharma. You know, so one day I walk outside. This flower pot is blooming. Dr. Soon gets 15,000 applicants a day. Within 10 minutes, a bird flies onto my hand. Wild bird. I got a picture of it. I pet him. Within 30 minutes, my husband got approval.
The bird did it, guys.
That was the Lord. God is personal.
What did you say? Kennedy doesn't believe in what? Big Pharma?
Big Pharma, yeah. He's like very
yeah, no, that's fine.
Well, I don't want he needs to cut the red tape with cancer.
They're like, oh, okay, that's true. Fuck, that's true.
To come back to the prompt, I think the frustration that we're going to have.
Thank you, Myriad. Yes, please save us from the Lori roller coaster, okay? Because, Saibo? Hey, Lori, Saibao, look into it, okay?
Over here with the entire concept that Christianity is liberal is that it is exactly opposing ideals. Okay, because what you're doing is you're using, but again, it's not that conservative values don't also agree with equality. What we're saying, or what doesn't make sense to me, or what is just completely at odds.
Some conservatives are also liberals. Crazy, I know, crazy, but liberalism. Lots of conservatives, not MAGA, that's for sure, but neocons were also oftentimes liberals. They just weren't left-leaning liberals.
This idea that liberalism, which at its core is a personal push, right? I am important, my ideas are important, what I want from myself is important, and also just this concept, honestly, of just communalism amongst people. And when you look at even the early church, or when you look at the writings of Paul, there's structure, there's hierarchy that is written into what the Lord tells us to do. And then there's also, again, as much as we are told to care for each other, there's also boundaries on that. We're told to love thy neighbor, but you're also told, be ye set apart. So who's supposed to be your neighbor in the first place, right?
Jesus, classic for being like, be a NIMBY. And the Lord said, all right, it was actually the last beatitude, okay? He was finishing the Sermon on the Mount. He was telling people all of the great things about God, commandments from God, how one ought act and conduct themselves as a Christian. At the end, he was like, also, be a NIMBY. Be not of this world. Be careful who your neighbors are. Definitely don't live next to those dirty, stinky immigrants. Like, what is this? What's happening right now? The classic Jesus, Matthew, 10:40. Don't spend time with stinky immigrants. We hate them. Also, not in your backyard. Am I right, boys?
Not supposed to just let everyone into the territory that God has given us. If we keep opening up our borders and doing all of these things that liberals are pushing for, we are giving up territory. And God tells us to take care of what he has given to us. I
don't know what immigration has to do with this. Don't know why we're there at all. Don't know what this has to do with anything to do with the original prompt. Immigration. God also says, take care of the refugee, for you were once a refugee. Be kind to the kind to the foreigner. Take them into your tent. So he also says a lot of stuff like that. It seems like God isn't making a prescription on statescraftmanship and policy, but he's talking about a way in which you ought to conduct yourself, which is probably some dialectic between kindness towards the foreigner, kindness towards the oppressed and the less seen and the foreigner, but also having some, I'm sure God also has some level of boundaries. I can't even think of a verse, but maybe a conservative will throw me a verse and I'm like, yeah, there's probably some boundaries about this that he would offer.
Don't think that along with abortion, all of these, concepts that the liberals push, I just don't see how you can equate that with Christianity at all.
Yeah. Because again, well, since it seems like you guys are unable to actually understand what I'm saying, I'm not saying that God is a Democrat. You guys are hearing that, right? So when you keep getting mad about things Democrats have done, I don't really care. I'm not interested. I'm not having that conversation. I'm talking about liberalism. You're right. Conservatives do believe in equality because almost all conservatives believe in liberalism. When I'm talking about liberalism, I am talking about a philosophical movement around strong institutions, equal rights and liberties, and welfare of caring for a vulnerable and protected. You're right. Conservatives can have these values too. This isn't a left or right issue.
Why are you cutting out the other portions, which is all about self and all about progressive movements?
Because I can engage with individualism. Individualism is
a slope that presents.
Individualism is a deeply Christian thing. You have a personal, individual relationship. You carry your cross.
In fact, it was one of the more individualistic religions at the time. In fact, it was very anti-collectivist in a lot of ways, because the whole point of the new covenant was a breaking down of the barriers between you and God, so that you yourself can have a personal, intimate, one-to-one relationship with Christ, that you no longer needed like the veils and the priest and all the fucking fanfare and the dead goats and shit. Okay, put her hand up to shut her up. I did put my hand up to shut her up, but it worked.
Yes, there's also communal pieces to the faith. This is why I love my faith, because God is this beautiful philosophical understanding of a dialectic, but so is liberalism. The liberal world order isn't to have everyone be individual and hate their neighbors and not talk to anyone. That's not what it is. All it is principles built on the idea that imagine you don't know who you're going to be in your society. What rules do you wish emerged? Equal under the law, free speech, right?
Look at my terrible neck posture.
We have fair treatment, equal access to opportunity. This is in line. And what I see from Christian America First people is hating immigrants. I see them rejecting, and you do.
Yeah. So I reported from the Darien Gap, where, you know, you guys talk about climate change. There's dead bodies and tons of trash down in the Darien Gap.
Going on another Lori roller coaster. I live where you say climate change is happening, and there's bodies. There's dead bodies everywhere. Really? Does the FBI know? You should probably report this. I don't know why you're saying this on this channel. I hope that you are... Where are the dead bodies from, Lori? What do you mean? That's crazy.
350,000 migrant children went missing into our country. You guys oppose ICE. You keep saying...
Is the dead bodies immigrants of missing children? Like, what is happening in this conversation? Up yours work, Moralist. I know that equality and rights and freedoms and the ability to like exercise opportunity is kind of cool and liberal, and like God would probably be aligned with that. But have you ever thought about the fact that there's dead immigrants everywhere? It's like, Lori, take your meds, okay? Grandma, Saibao, okay? No more. Enough of you.
Liberalism has fallen off the leftist cliff. It's almost as if liberalism has become your God, over God.
It seems like you don't understand what liberalism is.
Well, that's because you have your own definition.
I've defined it very clearly based on what most political philosophers would agree liberalism is. It's a movement of political philosophy. I don't know. I've labeled it the same way over and over and over again. You guys wanting to bake stuff into liberalism because you don't like woke stuff is not my problem. I'm not interested in that.
Well, but you're one individual, but you are sitting here on a platform debating 20 women, debating a philosophy that more than just you have.
So you're going to debate the ghost of liberals' past that have scarred you? I'm here. Talk to me.
Today, but you're...
Then talk to me.
Maybe they'll do a fact check.
The way that all political philosophy...
Yeah, if only they did, Miriam, because then we could see how fucking busted ass your misinfo is. Fucking absolutely moronic, Miriam, okay? Intersectionalism, a core component of liberalism, by the way. The fuck?
Would probably agree is a good definition.
People that call themselves liberals.
Most liberals would probably agree with me on this definition.
Out there doxing ICE, who actually go in and find the missing...
Liberals do mean stuff sometimes, so get wrecked, losers, stupid white girl, stupid white women wanting to make out with Islams and killing immigrant kids, fucking aborting your babies, throwing the bodies everywhere, and then killing immigrant kids too. Fuck you and your liberalism. Do I understand what it is? No. Could I reiterate the three things you've said multiple times that liberalism is as you're defining it? Definitely not. Am I tracking this conversation? What conversation? I thought I was having Sunday brunch with Mima.
Kids and the 18,000 known and suspected terrorists.
They also have to shoot civilians, which is a little rough. Rip. There's nothing even remotely Christian about an America First principle. Remember when we cut U.S. aid?
I said, she talked about ICE, and she said, you know, they're going in and freeing lost and missing children or whatever. And I said, yeah, well, they also executed 2 civilians in broad daylight, so rip. And then it just cuts out. I guess we just don't get the response, and now it goes back to me.
Rip. There's nothing even remotely Christian about an America First principle. Remember when we cut U.S. aid? We cut all of U.S. aid. And as of today, there are 750,000 children in Africa that are known to be dead as a result of us ending malaria treatments, ending AIDS treatments, Hep C treatments. This is just a reality.
They deserve it. Have you ever thought about how bad these kids are? They're not working. They're not working.
Christians that are part of the America First, I suspect I suspect many of you guys support this policy. I'm glad Eden doesn't, right? But you do. There we go. Thank you. Yep, I know you do. So my concern is that the Christian fundamentalist Republican movement has been captured by a god that they call politics, and they have forgotten the fundamental predilection, which is care for the sick and weak, that God loves all of us. You're right. Some people sin. So do you and I. Why are we obsessing? 100%. Why are we obsessing over gay people when obesity is a rampant problem in our church, when bigotry, kicking your children out, right? The fact that so many friends that I know, their parents won't even talk to them anymore, and they want to. They want to, because I can't talk to my queer kid. That's not Christian. That's not Christian at all. Cutting out, caring about African children, not Christian.
Zinger.
Good.
I don't know what they did with all those cuts, because they said zinger at the end, and I don't know. She clearly wasn't responding to me then, so I have no idea like what that little ending was.
Right here. Great job.
Thanks. My next prompt is Republicans are anti-science.
I wish this one had been first, because I prepped a little, like, pop quiz Kyla. I prepped a couple of questions that I think if it had been first, they would have engaged with. But as you'll see, they basically just don't engage with the questions, which is annoying.
Okay, so I'm going to do I just want to kind of like show of hands, possibly. Who here thinks that dinos walked on this earth? Okay.
I like how Trish doesn't raise her hand. She's itching her eyebrow, but she doesn't raise her hand. It's like, Trish.
I want to kind of like show of hands, possibly. Who here thinks that dinos walked on this earth? Okay.
So I don't think Trish does, but I'm not sure. Hard to say.
How long ago?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Just a guess.
I'm not going to guess. I'm not a scientist.
3,200 million?
I'm not a scientist, but yeah, I know where you're getting.
No guess. No guess. By the way, the refusal to guess is them just, they don't want to have to hinge the number on something. But it's like, either you think the earth is young or you think the earth is old. It's pretty obvious. Lots of Christians think the earth is young. Just fucking answer it. And like Dominique even saying like, I know what you're getting at. It's like, then what do you believe? What do you have you're completely agnostic on this? Find that surprising.
But yeah. Well, I'm genuinely just curious. Do you guys think it would be more or less?
What about you? Yeah, what's your answer?
I think like 220 million would be my answer. Yeah. Okay. Can we agree that the Earth is a round sphere in space?
It's not. We're not flat earthers. I know they like to coin us as flat earthers.
I've talked to a lot of flat earthers, so.
Yeah, but we're not flat earthers. Okay.
No. Okay. So. What about vaccines?
What about them?
Some can be good.
They work.
Some can be bad.
Well, the COVID vaccine did not work, obviously.
mRNA.
Yep. Do they cause autism? Do they cause autism?
Possibly, yes.
There's a possibility. We've seen twins that got the same.
Poor Eden and Dominique, like, because Dominique and Eden are not like these other two. Like Dominique and Eden are like, probably, I don't know. We don't really want to make a stake on this. The other two are like, I mean, yeah, probably.
Wait, final question, and then final question. Did evolution happen?
Yes.
Well, we're not a monkey. We're not a monkey. But
so no.
Do things evolve? Is there adaptation? Yes, there's adaptation. If you live in Iceland, you're going to have light skin. If you live in Africa, you're going to have dark skin. So there's adaptation.
I'll ask it again. Does the accepted theory by biologists of evolution is it true?
Not actually? It's not accepted.
Okay, this is why I think Republicans are anti-science.
Okay, can I say that I think that the liberals are anti?
Imagine if I'd done this first, because they would have been answered honestly, right? Because like they just ran away from it. Like their running away was telling enough. But imagine if I had done this first before they had asked, and they like had actually honestly answered their opinions on these things. Oh, it would have been so funny.
Science, can I say that?
Of course.
And can I explain why? Sure. Okay, can I say that it's not actually? It's not accepted.
Okay, this is why I think Republicans are anti-science.
Okay, can I say that I think that the liberals are anti-science? Can I say that?
Of course.
And can I explain why? Sure. During the COVID scam, I'm going to say scam because they lied about almost everything. You know, they thought it was in a wet market, and then we found out it most likely came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This is why, actually, one of the reasons why I started my rally, the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally.
Of course it is. What? You're a conservative whose brain melted during COVID? Shocker. Crazy.
Because they locked down our churches, they locked down our businesses, but they kept the big corporations open. So it became a corporatocracy where there's no equal rights under the law, which is unconstitutional. And that's why we got out and said, okay, they say follow the science. And people would just like, liberals would just say follow the science, like they were like, Walking Dead, I follow the science. And they would take all these shots. And the people that we saw that were getting sick, that were injured, and that were dying were the ones that got the shot. Because this mRNA technology was a new technology, and they tested it on the freaking world. So that is not science. Science is about scrutiny. It's not about Orwellian obedience, okay? You have to.
God, COVID is so annoying to me because the like science behind it was actually like, it's so sad because, like, here's the issue with COVID, okay? The issue with COVID is that governments listened to their government mandated experts, not the global experts of like virology, right? Everyone would have been better off if we just like listened to top virologists in the world, but we didn't do that. And there was a lot of politicking that happened during COVID. Like, this is obviously true because a lot of the original virologists said, do a 6-week hardcore lockdown, white knuckle through, the disease will go away, and then we're done. But governments didn't want to do that because Shabla, no, populists don't really love draconian lockdowns. Shockingly, I know, crazy to hear. So instead, we did this like half in, half out, like kind of like mixed thing, and it's crazy that the politics got so in the way of what was a goddamn fucking scientific miracle. Like, the mRNA technology, Project Warp Speed, is so fucking cool. It's so cool. If you know anything about like science and the old technology, like mRNA vaccines is this old technology, but it had just never been successful. And we just kind of tried it because we were trying everything. And the fact that it worked and the speed at which we did and the like teams that we brought together, God, Project Warp Speed was so fucking cool. It was like a scientific marvel. It is literally the equivalent. It's a modern day equivalent of the first time we put man on the moon. Like, it's such an exciting, cool thing. And everyone was stupid about it. Like, nobody engaged in it at all. It was so thought terminating. So many like liberal people would be like, just follow the science. And it's like, we would try to be like, the science is updating. It's actively updating all the time. And like, the government's handle it drives me fucking crazy, but also the way that conservatives just like melted down over it was horrifying to watch. Gosh, I hate it, and nobody understands what a fucking marvel the mRNA vaccine was. It is so incredible. Ugh. It's so cool. If you want to read about it, Derek Thompson does a great job. He goes into like all the details and background. He interviewed like some of the top execs running Project Warp Speed. Highly recommend it. It's both in Abundance and like the end chapters of Abundance, but it also is an independent article. You should absolutely read Derek Thompson's coverage on Project Warp Speed. It is such a testament to like brilliant scientific engineering and science. Oh, it's so cool. Okay.
Actually, you have to actually do the research. They said it was, 98% effective, then it was 95, then it was 85. It just kept changing. And then Fauci says, yes, oh, you don't need to wear a mask, now you need to wear a mask, now you need to wear 2 masks. No, now you need to wear 1 mask. That is not science. That is a lie.
Okay, so to get into this, right, I think there was a lot of problems that happened with how governments handled COVID. I would just grant you guys that. Can you guys grant me that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, right. I think one of the things that happened is that the public who had otherwise been told how science works were actually exposed to the realities of what science is on the data ground. So you said the mRNA vaccine was new and not tested. It had been developed for 30 years. It's a 30-year-old technology.
But it wasn't tested on people like it was during...
You're right, which is why we had to expedite testing. But the testing procedures that we utilized for all medications was still followed. The difference is just that, rather than it taking 2 years after you do your first FDA trial to get access and approval to do your second, they just expedited that. That was the main difference. But the actual empirical research that happened was there. And another thing, Fauci said this, Fauci said that. Part of that was politicking, which I don't necessarily love. I agree. But part of that is also because we were discovering things about this new disease in the moment. So we would go, this we believe is the best practice. And then we would do research and it would be like, actually, that's not the best practice. This is the best practice. But this is, if you're in the scientific field, this is standard scientific practice, right? That you are going to find a result. It looks promising. You further test it to generalize it. And you're like, oh, rip, it doesn't generalize. But by and large, we came out with the conclusion, okay, masks were decently effective at reducing spread.
No, that's
no, that's not true at all. Masks don't work at all.
We did not find that. That was actually Fauci did a study about masks during the
Fauci himself, or
yeah.
Fauci himself.
There's even video of him saying that it doesn't work.
Yes.
To protect you. Oh my God, these people. The masks. I don't know who fucking forgot this. Okay, and I see people on the left and the right that will say this shit. The standard masks don't protect you. Okay, if you wear a mask, it's to protect everyone out there from your fucking nasty vapors, splooges, okay? That's what it's for. There are specific masks that can protect the wearer themselves and filter out the air, but it's not the standard mask that people are wearing, which is what Fauci said. Crazy. What do they think doctors are wearing this shit for? Do you think doctors wear it because it looks cool? Like, what the fuck?
Oh, he did a study.
Right, and then he updated
remember the Spanish flu? He did a paper on the Spanish flu and how the mask actually made them more sick because they were inhaling the bad bacteria, which I don't even think was a Spanish flu. I think it was a meningitis that was injected to the soldiers in Fort Riley.
Okay, can we revisit the prompts? Because I feel like we're going to get into all the super political questions.
Republicans are anti-science.
Okay. So going back to some of the initial prompts, yes, dinosaurs, not a flat earther, believe in anthropological evolution, not the Big Bang. So like, I'm not a evolutionary scientist, so I'm not going to debate the minutia of that. But this claim reminds me of the first claim, which is that it's very zero sum. So I would say,
okay, this, while zero sum was already not the word to use, this claim is not zero sum. Saying they are anti-science is a normative claim. It's not, if I said all Republicans are anti-science, it would be an absolute claim. But this critique doesn't work. And this is just like analytical fill now. It's just like word stuff. But this is not a zero sum, or what she means is this is not an absolute claim because there's no all. I'm making a normative statement, a generalization about Republicans, which I think holds.
There are conservatives who interpret science and implement that differently in policy. And I would assume, maybe, do you agree with that we can look at science and then...
Of course, there's going to be individuals of every group that breach from the general norm. But I think the norm that I'm claiming is still reasonable.
Okay. Well, so I would say as a conservative, gender, XX, XY, abortion, defining what a fetus is, that it's a child in the womb. Science is pretty much there.
That's
we look
not
at
science.
What a woman is.
A fetus literally means offspring.
Sure, but when we're talking about abortion, we're fundamentally talking about the philosophical question of personhood or the spiritual question of ensoulment.
I don't believe conservatives are anti-science. We're just arriving to different conclusions that are...
We're not anti-science. We just look at the same data. When the scientists say this is what the data says, we go, no, it's not. That's a hoax.
Very much fueled by ideological differences.
Probably Dominique is the one I would like to talk to most because I got to talk to Eden more. Dominique, I think, would be an interesting one to kind of flesh out what she actually believes a little bit more.
My point is even personhood.
Oh yeah, trans, true, trans, bing, 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 trans.
In the womb, life starts at conception, and even viability continues through science to be younger and younger. We can look at climate activism and climate alarmism. There's differences in the data and science there. So,
but you'll probably agree with me that insurance companies for homeowners all now employ a climate scientist to figure out who they don't cover insurance for, right? So the insurance companies seem to think it's real.
Debating.
It is.
I'm not denying that fossil fuel emissions slightly increase the warming of the planet. I'm not.
And that's what we're talking about when we talk about climate change.
No, I'm just saying that my antidote to that, my policy to it, is not unreliable sources of energy versus fossil fuels. But my point is,
what?
Well, solar and wind energy is not as reliable as fossil fuels that are necessary.
Wind, I would grant you. Solar is so vastly improved that it seems like it's just, but really the real option should be nuclear power plants.
Sure, I can agree with that too. Yeah. So, but this has proven the point that conservatives are not anti-science.
You might not be anti-science, right? But that doesn't change that you're unfortunately part of a movement that denies vaccines efficacy. All of you deny all of.
She stopped her from talking because she fucking knows. This is where I should have leaned more into being like, you may not deny it, Dominique, but Trish over here doesn't know if dinosaurs existed and thinks vaccines cause autism. So, unfortunately, you are part of the Republican movement. You have to be held to account for the fact that these are a large portion. So, fair enough. If you agree, MAGA's fucking stupid, sure, but you voted for Trump. These are your people. So unless you want to separate yourself from these people, I'll give you that. But then you're not MAGA, okay? Then it's not what we're talking about with Republicans anymore.
Deny evolution, right? There are some people, it seems like I wasn't sure if Trish even believed that dinosaurs walked the earth. I'm not totally sure. So I agree. There are always going to be people that break from the broad norm. But Republicans, broadly, they got Kennedy in office, right? He's so anti-science that one of his recent reports it was AI generated and it had AI ghost papers that was just never vetted, right? He's applying and putting vaccine skeptics in charge of it, despite promising multiple Republicans that he wouldn't do these things. He's cutting cancer research. He's cutting funding for, yes, he is cutting cancer research funding. This is just true. He has absolutely decimated scientific funding, right? And we have this thing where we go, well, when I say evolution, I mean adaptation over time, but I'm not an evil scientist. If you're not an evil scientist,
I should have said macro versus micro. I've totally forgot the flat earther, the young earther language, because I used to be a young earther for those when I was 18, 16 to 18. But I should have said here, I'm not talking about micro adaptation. I'm talking about macro adaptation, and you guys do reject that. You do reject macro adaptation, which is the theory of evolution.
That's fine, but then you should probably, by and large, go, well, probably the scientists have actually thought about this because you probably brush your teeth, you probably start your car, and you're probably not hyper-analyzing whether or not the scientists were right about these things. We only pick and choose political things and deny them, which is anti-science. Has the left engaged in some level of anti-science in the past? Yeah, especially particularly far left wings. But I would say dominantly, particularly in the last 30 years, the main champions of anti-scientific rhetoric, anti-scientific policy has been Republicans.
Okay. I think that two things can be true at the same time. I think that there are definitely people in our camp that deny certain fundamental scientific reality.
Yeah, and you're sitting next to one. Look at Shiva when you say that.
And I also think the same thing can be said on your side. Gender being one of them, or sex. You talk about us basically denying science for ideology, but your side's kind of been doing that. So I feel like if we can just grant each other that, like you said radical. There's certain radical. You said there's certain far left things that deny science. What are those?
For example, a lot of the far left denies like IQ research. Dominantly, they don't think that's legitimate, and I think that that's anti-scientific to engage in that. That would be one of the biggest ones that I think is a problem.
Okay, and so how does again back to the gender thing, the gender question? Of course, we believe that there are two genders, two.
The trans! Oh, lordy day, the trans!
Sexes, male.
Well, most liberals, like almost everyone in my social camp agrees that there's two sexes, right? With the dimorphism of like the weird disorders in between, right? The real battle is gender, and gender isn't really a scientific conversation. It's unfortunately a cultural anthropological conversation, because when people are saying gender,
I don't know why I said it's not science, because anthropology science.
They're meaning specifically not biological sex, the thing that emerges outside of it, like why men wore skirts and dresses and stuff in the past, and now it's not okay, but certain skirts, as long as they're masculine, as long as they're perceived socially masculine enough, are okay, right? That's what we want to talk about when we're talking about gender. The problem is that a lot of Republicans, as has happened, will strawman the trans conversation into just insisting that it's a denial of sex. Have some trans advocates denied sex as well? Yeah, I was never in their camp, and I think that it's silly and a bad thing to do.
Right, and if we can accept you saying that, then like why can't you accept us saying that people who deny dinosaurs? I think that's silly, and people who
this is a larger percentage of body.
Flat, it's silly. So like we can a little middle ground here. Like I can totally respect your position that you feel this way, but like you can also give us a little bit of credit that the dinosaurs are real. The Earth was not flat.
Sure, but you all deny evolution and question things. No, I don't want you to go yet. Stop. Sure.
The prompt, like you said, is a zero-sum prompt.
It's not a zero-sum prompt, right? This is more. No, this is a normative
science.
It's a normative prompt. Yeah.
In science, there's critical thinking.
Okay, let me say this: would we broadly agree that men and women mostly correspond to what their sex is as well? That a woman is going to also be a female and a man is probably going to be a male? Can I make that normative general claim? Yeah. Can we also acknowledge that there are some people that have like XX disorders where the X doesn't present properly, so they're technically sexually a male by their chromosomes, but they actually demonstrate like vaginas and stuff like that.
You said you're a Christian, so do you believe in the Bible?
So no response to that. Just no response to that.
Well, you don't believe in the Bible?
I believe in the Bible.
The whole Bible?
I'm not a sola scriptura. I'm more like a Catholic in that way.
Okay, so don't you believe that man was created, man and woman?
Yeah, I don't think
and
the
animals, and then he.
Can I talk to Eden?
No, I want to know why are you trying to escape this question?
It's not interesting, relevant to the prompt, or
yes, it is,
adding to anything that
science.
Eden and I were talking about.
It's about science, and you said
the Bible's not a science textbook.
So you believe that we were monkeys?
Yeah, I guess not really.
Then
That's
why
not
are monkeys here, and why are we here?
I should have said yeah. I should have said. I was just saying yeah to like get like sai bao, like shut your bitch ass up. I don't care. Shut up, Shiva. Nobody cares what you have to say. But I shouldn't have said yes because I was just being dismissive. I was just trying to get rid of her. I should have obviously still said no. We didn't come from monkeys. That's literally not the theory. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Same time, because we have sex with monkeys and make little half monkey, half human babies.
Do you want me to walk you through the actual evolutionary science of like Homo sapiens? I can do it, right? We can talk about Homo Denisova, but nobody actually wants this. That's why I didn't want to engage with you. That's why I want to talk to Eden.
Yeah, you don't want to talk to me because I just nailed it with you. That's why.
Okay.
Tell yourself that. I think, and I'm enjoying this. Like I think that we can kind of find some middle ground here in this situation. But I do think, with the argument saying Republicans are anti-science.
She's so pissed about being a monkey like 300 million years ago. That's a winning comment. It's so funny. She's like, yeah, well, you just don't want to answer it because I fucking wrecked you, liberal. Yeah, you wrecked me because you're a complete failure to understand, track the conversation, or understand anything about evolutionary theory. You can deny evolutionary theory. I think you're stupid to do so. You could do it. You should probably understand the theory before you deny it. If you are rejecting something that you only have a straw man of, you just look dumb. I don't need to do any work here. You've done it yourself, Miss Shiva.
And then if we were to say, well, Democrats are anti-science because they don't accept that life begins at conception, whereas the science backs that, and then all of that stuff to dismiss the fact that it's murder. I mean, we disagree on these things, obviously. But in the end, I think that both of us have, or both camps, acknowledge science in our own respect. So to go off the prompt, Republicans are anti-science, that's kind of debunked in the fact that we believe dinosaurs walked the earth.
So a normative claim is not debunked just by people who don't fall into that normative claim, right? My issue with going like, well, both sides do this, I would say, yeah, but the problem is that like you guys engage in like, I'm going to give it a random number, but like it's like 80%, right? There is probably some anti-scientific belief that someone has that is Republican 80% of the time. There are
honestly, it's probably 95. Probably 95% of Republicans have some pretty strong anti-science position at this time, particularly Republicans who are still like MAGA. Like if you're a Republican and MAGA, you're 95, at least, maybe 100, but I can't really say 100 because that's too absolute. 99% of you are definitely in science denial in some way. It's just have to.
Very few
debunked because we believe in dinosaurs. That is also crazy. Well, it's debunked because we believe in dinosaurs. Number one, Trish doesn't. So Sorry, still your camp. Number 2, you guys are fighting me on evolution. I don't know what to tell you.
Republicans that I meet, where when I talk to them, I'm like, oh yeah, this person understands science, understands how it works, how to read methodology, but on top of that, actually engage scientifically in the world. Whereas, yeah, it does exist on the left. The problem is that it's like 20%, if that. And that's kind of my problem is acting like these are the same. I think the major threat to scientific innovation, development, and the theory of science itself is most under threat by Republican policy, which is why I say Republicans are anti-science. And it's pithy, so it's good for a prompt.
I think maybe I wasn't best for this prompt because I probably could find nuance with you in between. I disagree with your claim about normativity because I think these broad sweeping claims is what leads to...
It doesn't matter if you disagree with me about normativity. It is a normative claim. It is not an absolute claim. You could get that with the Trump one. You can't get it with this one. Sorry.
Vast polarization, even just in policy conversation and how to look at the science and then apply policy prescriptions to it. So, because you mentioned like it's like brushing your teeth, like you should just accept it. So from your worldview, because science is methodologically a pursuit of knowledge, and like over time we see that medicines or different theories like a lobotomy was kind of a commonplace, innovative science, and then over time it proved that that wasn't correct. So
it's still used today, but yeah.
Okay, but my example is that there are scientific methods or theories that have been proposed that have then further been debunked. So from your worldview, since you're kind of normatively saying that all conservatives reject that, what is...
But also, that was definitely me being an actually little butthole. Okay, I there was no need for me to clarify that we actually still use lobotomies. Okay, I was definitely actuallying her, and it's valid if she thought I was annoying because it was annoying.
Is a healthy challenge of the scientific method or stated scientific discoveries or hypotheses? Because do you just have to accept everything?
No, this is the beauty of science. Right. So I love it so much. Yes, I won't want to let it, I promise. Science is a self-correcting machine. What is the counter to bad science? More science. That's like one of the most integral things is that you don't presume conclusions, you build it up. The problem I have with Republicans is they presume conclusions and they have no scientific evidence to back up what they're saying. It's usually misunderstandings of scientific evidence, unfortunately.
Cook, baby girl. Cook. What's the solution to bad science? More fucking science. What's the solution to liberalism not giving people enough rights? More fucking liberalism. Based.
Okay, Kyla, you're doing a great job. This is really interesting. Now you get an opportunity to choose one of these ladies to have a one-on-one discussion with. So why are you going to choose the person that you're going to choose?
Okay, so there's 2 people in mind that I love the most. I mean, I will pick one, I promise. Just want to give a particular shout out to Dominique and Eden. I was the most impressed by you guys. I think you guys are the most nuanced. I think the nature of these prompt spaces is to be a little bit more Mott and Bailey'd, and I appreciate you guys seeking nuance in between. Oh, I'm so torn. You guys are both amazing. I'm going to go with Eden. I just feel like you didn't get as much talking time, so I'm going to go with Eden, but you guys were both phenomenal.
First of all, I just want to say thank you. I really enjoy watching you, and I think
I've rewatched this conversation now already. I will say ahead of time my feelings on it. I think I was too motivated to build a bridge and didn't hold her feet to the fire enough. There was a number of points where she's like, yeah, so see, like, we both have problems, because I basically talk pretty critically about the left here, like pretty extensively. She's like, yeah, see, like, we can both admit these failing sides. But I didn't actually get her to admit anything that Trump was failing at, anything that was bad. And so I really should have held her being like, hold on. I can grant you a lot of stuff that like the left has failed at, but if you actually can't grant me it back, that there's no point in this conversation. There isn't a bridge being built because we need both sides to be built. And if only I'm building it, it's fruitless. Actually, I lose. And all of the lefties that you hate because they won't talk to you and they just want to burn you down, they win. Actually, they're right. And I am wrong for trying to build a bridge. So I should have pushed her more on like granting me issues within it. Welcome to Destiny a couple of years ago. Sure, maybe. I think he was more effective then. I think he was more effective then and could have been more effective now if he had maintained it. Like I just straight up.
you have a real talent for this. So thank you for coming and
Can I shake your hand?
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. I didn't have time to think of a prompt that much, but my prompt that I want to go off of and just have a conversation is I think that white privilege, it's woke ideology comes from white privilege.
I might agree with you.
I guess we can talk about it.
Yeah, we could talk about it. Yeah, I think, so this is something that I get accused of often, which is like being in this very privileged position. And I do oftentimes watch, so despite the fact that I'm fighting with conservatives today, I spend a lot of time fighting the left as well. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people neglect the necessity of things like structure and the realities of evil, and that the solution to evil is complex. I spent actually most of my career working with young offenders. Me and my husband met he lived and grew up at a homeless shelter, and working with young sex offenders and criminals. That's most of my career. And I often would have these frustrating conversations with people on the left, like further left than me, about homelessness. And oftentimes it was very much belied in a completely misunderstanding. They'd be like, as long as we just gave them homes, everything would be fixed. I'm like, no.
You missed a 1v1 about dinosaurs' existence. Well, I could have picked, so I was like, oh, fuck, who should I pick? Because obviously I can pick one of the crazy bitches and just get clips, just like farm clips forever. But I was really hoping that if I talked to Eden, I could get like a little bit of a bridge built. But I think I failed in it by like not asking, like not insisting that she build the bridge back. And she was like polite, like in a lot of ways and whatnot, but she didn't like, at one point I like talk about like why Trump is such a major threat and that like it is different and she needs to acknowledge that. And she basically just won't grant it to me. And I basically should have said, if you can't grant that to me, then I don't know how we keep talking. Because if I'm willing to be so conciliatory on so many areas, and just so it's clear, I am being conciliatory, okay? These are my opinions. I have a lot of issues with the left, okay? As somebody who's worked extensively with Democrats, who has been swatted and doxxed by leftists and stuff like that, and also appreciates communism and also likes working with socialists. I absolutely have these criticisms of the left. This is legitimate. If you have liked my debate so far, you might squirm a little bit at this. I think being intellectually honest is more important than ensuring that your side wins, fundamentally, because I actually think that your side wins more if you're intellectually honest, right? Which means we have to acknowledge areas where we have failed. We must acknowledge the areas where Democrats or et cetera have failed in the past so that we can correct it in the future. And I think the areas that I talk about here are areas where Democrats have failed, but also areas where Democrats are not given enough credit, or lefties, I suppose, any of the left, which to a conservative leftist is just all of us. So I'll use leftist in the conservative way. So if it does make you squirm, super fair. You have to remember also I'm talking to a conservative audience, but I'm not being dishonest about my perspective.
Actually, that wouldn't fix everything. And so I think a lot of the woke ideology comes out of privilege. The issue is that sometimes the people who are most privileged, the most shielded from all of the evils, sometimes they have the best ideas we should aspire for. That we shouldn't allow the evilness and muckiness and difficulty of the world to rob us of the dreams of a better life. And I think that a lot of woke stuff is people genuinely wanting to see the world be even better.
Yeah, I think that's a valuable perspective. I think the way that I've seen it is in my own family. Like I got family on the right, I got family on the left. My Mexican side of the family is actually on the right, and my Caucasian side of the family is on the left. Yes. And during certain things like the No Kings protests, my white cousins would try to tell me and my Mexican mother how the white man is oppressing them. They don't have that perspective. I also grew up in Israel, and my woke cousins try to tell me what's going on there. Try to tell me what happened on October 7th, something I lived through. And the kind of background they come from is very much so like they don't have a broad perspective of the world. They don't have an understanding that way. They go to college, they're given the same ideology, the liberal ideology.
This is where I so slept on when she says they have such a narrow perspective. I should have said, who do you think has a more narrow perspective? Somebody who grew up, left home, went to college, learned from a bunch of college professors, talked to a very dynamic group of people at college, and then went out into the workplace, probably traveled at least a little bit. Or some person who grew up in a small town, graduated high school, if then, never really left, has definitely never traveled, never pursued higher education. Like, who actually here has the more narrow perspective? It's obviously the small town person. And this person is most likely going to be MAGA. That's just the reality. Like, MAGA feeds and lives off of ignorance and hatred. That's the reality. And so I'm always in this tough position. I never know what to do with MAGA, because if you want my genuine perspective of MAGA, like why I'm so willing to like hold their hands and be gentle, is that like I basically do view them as like brainwashed, ignorant people. Like I view them as basically like people who have had less of an opportunity to travel, be educated, maybe by choice, maybe not by choice, that have been actively taken advantage of by a malicious government system, weaponizing their fear of a changing surrounding, of a changing environment that they are genuinely not prepared for, with an education rural system that's probably kind of trash and extremely outdated. If you go into rural towns, they're at least 10 to 15 years behind cities. Like, city stuff scares them. It is so far away from anything. They're literally 10 to 15 years. So when people are like, why are you so willing to like hold their hands and be gentle? With the pundits, I think I'm basically just past it. I don't want to be gentle with the pundits anymore. But when it comes to like the MAGA individuals, it's hard not to view them as victims of ignorance and circumstance and propaganda. And it doesn't excuse their behavior, it doesn't excuse their bigotry, it doesn't excuse them hating trans people. But it's really hard not to look at them and basically go, like essentially, like as Jesus said, like forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, right? And it doesn't excuse it, it doesn't make it okay. But like, imagine yourself, but you've never left your small town. Just like literally imagine who you'd be if you've never really left your small town. You don't even have a passport. You've probably gone out of your state like once or twice. Just like imagine who you'd be. You'd just be a really different person. And the reality is part of why these people are in these situations is we have very few rural spending. We don't support rural people. We have very limited access to education for them. Yeah, I don't know. So pity them. Sort of in the way that like I would view like an at-risk youth who has no exposure to like healthy parents and is therefore like lashing out at me because I'm an authority figure. Am I pitying them? Not really, because pity is like, am I empathizing with them? Yes. Am I pitying them? No, because I don't like see myself as like above necessarily. But there is an element where you go, yeah, I feel empathy for that. I feel like that's sucky, and I want to understand that and understand this person complexly. Because I think if we like expect people to act at this way, but we only give them like the structures societally to like have access to this type of like experiences and education, I think we can't be overly shocked when they don't quite meet us at the standard and bar that we want. Authority finger, yeah. How do you prep for this debate? I'll answer. Let's do all after debate questions right after we finish this, because we've only got a few minutes left.
That, tells them that white people are the villain and that it's just this oppressed system. And I think that the world operates a little bit more nuanced than that. I agree. And as much as I don't want to make like broad generalizations about your camp, this is just what I've seen. And I appreciate, if when you don't make broad generalizations about the Republican camp as well.
Yeah, so I think one of the worst things, to make a broad generalization about my group, one of the worst things that we did as liberals is we, in 2016 to like 2020, 2022, we spent a lot of time with communists and socialists and like hyper progressive people. And we were like, guys, we're just like you. And we weren't. Right. That was the worst thing. We just weren't, right? And then when they elected us into office, they were shocked when suddenly the policy that they got wasn't what we said that we agreed with them on. It was like moderate lib dem stuff, right? It was being like, yeah, private property matters, actually, but we want to be a little bit more lenient on immigration. We want a little bit more the standard dem liberal stuff, right? That you guys might not like, but is not crazy. Right. I think that was a really bad marriage that happened. And as a liberal, my ownership to my own group is to police it, is to say, actually, private properties is a hard line. We don't take away rights, no matter what, right? Amen. Actually, when you guys are going into the realm of science denial, we don't do that, right? However, what I'm seeing now on the right is the same unholy union. You've got theocrats, you've got gripers, you've got 19th Amendment abolishers that are unifying with like normal neocons. Yep. And it's like, I look back at Bush days and I'm like, oh, we had it so good, right? He talked beautifully about Obama. They had mutual respect. We don't have that anymore, right? And I think what happens is we all want to insist that everyone's the chicken or everyone's the egg. And the reality is it's probably all more messy and complicated than that. The only off-ramp is to police your own. Right? I think the right has to stand up against theocrats. It has to stand up against people who want to rob women of rights. And it has to stand up against people who do want to get rid of science. Because that is a burgeoning problem.
No, we don't need to stand up to theocrats or people trying. Nobody's trying to do that. Because I personally am not trying to do that.
In the Republican side.
Just how you're going to get clipped for what you said? Probably not. Not problematic. I stand by everything I'm saying here. Everything I'm saying here is fine. If you listen to this and you think that there's a problem, it's probably just because you're being too partisan and you are too desperate to ensure that your side wins, to just be like honest about problems. Now, you could disagree with me on some of these things, but I think if it's like really itching at you and like worried that I'm going to get clipped, I'm not worried about getting clipped by any of these things. I believe these things. People have known for a long time that I believe these things, that I have serious issues with how the left has conducted itself. I just also have very serious issues with how the right is conducting itself, particularly right now.
The left needs to do the same of their own extremists. And so when I make these broad claims, I understand that they're harmful in some ways, but I do think normative conversations about how broad groups operate is useful, and we can see these things that emerge.
Right. Yeah. And I can grant some of that. I also fight a lot of groiperism. So I'm right with you on that.
My queen.
Right with you on that. It's absolutely horrible. But I think another problem that I had with the left is the inability to have a conversation. I get shut down every single time. I get called a Nazi.
This is where I wish I had pushed more. When she goes like the inability to have a conversation, because I said, sure, because the left did actually isolate. They actually did refuse to platform and talk to people on the right. This just did happen. If you don't think it happened, I don't know where you were from 2016 to 2020. But the right, it does this. They'll have the conversation with you and they just literally don't listen to you. There's no beginning of an active listening that's beginning to occur. And so it's like, this isn't meaningful conversation either. If we're sitting here across from each other and you literally aren't even tracking what I'm saying because you're just trying to figure out what to say next to defeat me, it's not a conversation, actually. And so you're not more noble because you'll just sit and berate people you disagree with than you are with the left. Like, it's actually the same. No conversations are happening.
And I fight literal Nazis. So, and that's it's wild. And so I think, I guess another critique of the left is just almost the inability to have a conversation. Charlie Kirk was shot by somebody on the left. These things are a growing concern, but it is encouraging to see someone like you who sits down and has a conversation with us.
Yeah, and it's sad because I think the right used to actually have a history of policing its own in a way that the left hated when I said this, but it's true. They were better about it, right? And I don't know where I think it slipped with Kirk. I think that was like a really radicalizing moment for the right. And I get it, right? A person I am friends with was the guy talking to him when this happened, right? So I get it. My immediate response to it was an immediate condemnation of the violence. And I think the off-ramp has to be for both of our sides to recognize what matters here is a democracy. And there are powers that want to rid us of it. And you don't have to like everything. I'm always going to be a trans ally, okay? I do think gender and sex is different. I think they're downstream of each other, but they're separate. And you're never going to like that. And that's okay. That's democracy. What's not democracy, though, and this is why I'm so angry at the right now, is that these things are not equal anymore. What Trump is doing to the Constitution, I know people that think I have Trump derangement. I don't. I didn't have a huge issue. I mostly tell liberals, you guys were kind of like insane about Trump in 2016. Like, I think he did a lot of decent stuff. He did a lot of stupid stuff. Like, he's I don't know, he's standard.
That's nice to hear, especially from because honestly, sometimes these people, they don't grant anything, I agree.
But Trump now is different. And it cannot be underscored how terrifying that is. There are powers, there are oligarchs and billionaires like Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel and these individuals that have openly said that democracy gets in the way because they want Prospera, which is a place in Honduras. They want business owners to run the country. That's terrifying because business owners don't care about equal rights and liberties, right? They think that if you are, Curtis Yarvin talks openly about how like intellectual,
what is the incentive for business owners to give a fuck about human rights? Like, I'm sorry, what?
Eugenicist. He thinks that intellectually disabled people just basically shouldn't be taken care of, right? And so what I need the right to understand is I get that the left bullied you a lot and it was wrong. And I pushed back against them the whole time. I stood against them the whole time. But if you don't get honest about what your current president is doing and what's happening to your party, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to fix this because it has to be both sides coming together.
And I of course, I totally disagree with that last bit, but that's the beauty is we can come together and
See, this is where it should have been like, hold on. If you disagree with that last bit, then only one side here is attempting to build a bridge. Frankly, if you can't even begin to engage with culpability for who you've put into office and his actions, there's no bridge to be built anymore. Now you're saying, I'll talk to you, but I will never see anything. I'll never see your side, which is just, it's just empty. Yeah, this is where I really should have pushed her. This is where I am sad that I didn't.
Agree. You made a statement about...
It's like, this is democracy. Free speech is democracy. You not being able to recognize that the current person in power is trying to undermine your democracy and destroy your institutions, it actually is the death of democracy. If you can't acknowledge that and fight against it, we're fucked. We're fucked, actually. And all we have now is the Democrats, who you guys hate, the conservatives, that is. You guys hate. They're our last hope. We have to hope they win the midterms so they can apply proper brakes to Trump so that there is some balance of power again, because otherwise, I don't know how we pull ourselves back from this. And I should have been so much harder about it.
Did you say Trump said that that democracy undermines his plans? I would ask you to...
Yarvin and Thiel. Sort of Trump, I suppose, in that like the way that he's like weaponizing the DOJ and lining his pockets and utilizing EPA tariffs.
Trump doesn't need to line his pockets. Like, he's already richer than God.
Well, here's the problem with billionaires. They just want more of the pie, right? Elon Musk doesn't need to make more money. He's sure working hard to make more money, right? So the idea of like...
A billionaire? He doesn't need more money. Okay, sure. Destiny is right. I don't know how many conservatives are he converting right now. Not very many.
Doesn't need more money. I agree. But then why is he doing a trade deal with Vietnam where he instills a 46% tariff? And then they go, hold on, that $1 billion investment of a golf course you wanted, we'll approve it. And within 3 weeks of them agreeing and making the financial commitment to Trump's golf course, tariffs are halved, right? Qatar gives him a plane. It's retrofitted with tax dollars. And now he just gets to keep it. He's got a crypto business that Saudi Arabia and Qatar have been investing in for this entire year, right? If you just look at the candlesticks of inside trading that has happened, how his friends have grown their net wealth 5 times any president cumulative from 1960 to now, it is terrifying. It should be terrifying. He's infringed on state rights, and this isn't Trump derangement because I wasn't Trump deranged in 2016. This is a genuine look at what he is doing now is unprecedented.
I don't have a problem with millionaires. I don't have a problem with billionaires.
Sure.
Why is this what we're talking about? Why is this what we're talking about? This is not important. This is not even what I've really said. This is like just true running. Ugh.
I think we live in America. We live in a capitalist society. People should aim towards that. And so I actually admire that. I admire the striving towards more. I mean, that's America. I guess my question, maybe we're not asking questions, is it sounds like you're calling for wealth redistribution, which goes into communism. And we fought that. We fought that hard. And so I guess I would want to know.
I don't know why they played that boom music.
What is the solution? Because on my day-to-day basis, Trump's millions, it doesn't affect me. Okay. I mean, I guess we could talk about the price of eggs, we talk about the price of gas, but I'm here. And I don't really think that if Trump didn't buy.
This is like the ultimate, like, swallowing the boot perspective. Like, just being like, I mean, is he corrupt? Maybe. Is he making like way more money than he probably should as a president? I mean, possibly, but like, does that really affect me? Like, rich people gonna be rich. It's like, first of all, rich people should be criticized if they put money over people. Yeah, I think a lot of rich people are bad. I think a lot of rich people do act immorally. Not all of them. Some rich people are great. But yeah, the obsession with greed in America, I think, is kind of evil, actually. In fact, I think every single Christian must insist that our obsession with greed is evil, right? The audacity of Christians to obsess about gays when greed, the way Christ talks about, the way Jesus talks about greed is so explicit, and they will dick suck a president weaponizing his position of power to line his pockets and just say, well, rich people be rich. First of all, if that's how you expect rich people to act, they're already in sin by your standards. They should be, at least, right? Second of all, why are we accepting this? Rich people be rich. What does that even mean? What? No.
Golf course that I would have more eggs or be able to afford eggs more. It doesn't seem to add up. So I guess that's part of my statement, just off of what you said. I don't have a problem with millionaires. If the solution is wealth redistribution, I'm fundamentally against that.
So what I'm not asking for you to be opposed to is rich people being rich. Yeah, rich people be rich. That's fine. What I think you should be afraid of is politicians weaponizing and utilizing their authority-granted position, which is to care for us, to personally finance themselves. That's not what the presidency is for. It's not. It's a fundamental violation of what that role is. He should care about the American people. Your gas is going up, that does impact you. And your gas is going up because of a war that he started, right? These things desperately impact you. And I'm not saying that you have to weigh one way or the other about the war, but this isn't rich people exist and that's bad. It's actually, there is increasingly less regulation, and politicians are utilizing that lack of regulation and their power that we give them to decrease our wealth, to destroy the middle class. And it is a problem. If not for me and you, definitely for my kids. And that matters.
Thank you. Wow, Kyla, that was a great conversation. What was your experience like?
Look, they were less mean than most incels that I fight with, so yeah, it was good. It was a good conversation. I think there are some people that I think came willing to engage.
The next one that gets released is one conservative versus 20 Christians. I'm also on that one, but I'm just the 20 liberals, sorry. It's Miriam. I don't know if you can see her here. Oh yeah, she's peeking out over the side. But when she does this wrap up, which she had watched me do the wrap up, so she definitely knew it was coming, and she had been on the one atheist versus 20 Christians, so she had knew this question was coming, and she had nothing good to say about the liberals. It was pretty crazy. It was like, as soon as I heard this atheist get the question, I was like, okay, I gotta think of something. I gotta think of something. I'm not overly impressed, but look, we'll say something here. Less mean. They are all mean. They're less mean than insults, is what I said, okay? They're less mean than whatever people, obviously.
Tough, right? You have to prepare prompts that are a little bit exciting and will pull people in, because if you give a 3-sentence long nuanced prompt, it's hard to have a conversation about that. But yeah, I do look forward to further nuanced conversations, and I appreciate those who are interested and wanted to have it.
Yeah, that's great. Did anything impress you or challenge you in any way?
I think one of the things that my side likes to do to conservatives is insist that they're just stupid. I mean, what's your name, miss? Me? Yeah, Shiva. Shiva knows so many random factoids and all these things that she can jump all over the place, and she's so fast, right?
Look at her face. She's fucking gobsmacked that I'm complimenting her right now, which I like. Did I like Shiva? No, fuck that bitch. I did not like Shiva. Was I is it somewhat tactical to compliment Shiva? Yes. In part because, look, that's the type of crazy that you want to not hate you. Just saying, that's the type of crazy you definitely don't want to. And I have absolutely learned a thing or two about pissing off too many crazy people, okay? Because I have a couple of classic internet stalkers. I don't need more. Not saying that she would necessarily, but she, smells like the type that you befriend, okay? Just like in school, you all know that one weird edgy kid that's smells bad and if anyone's gonna be it's him. You befriend that kid. You always befriend that kid, okay? Just saying.
This isn't the actions and beliefs and statements of somebody who's just stupid. And I think when we dismiss one another in such a way, we lose the heart of what matters most in conversations about ideas. We have very big differences. It's important to know how to think, but I've always had the presumption, I don't care necessarily what you think, but I care a lot about how you think about it.
Yeah, so that is important. It is. So why did you choose Eden, and what were some of the thoughts that you had about the discussion that you two had?
Yeah, she's a conservative who wants to build bridges. And I think that is like the most important thing. I don't think I'm always a perfect arbiter, but I go out of my way regularly to talk to conservatives who are willing to talk to me. And I think when the left built up this wall where we wouldn't talk to anyone, it was only harmful. It wasn't obvious to me that everyone was willing to engage in the way that Eden was, but Eden and Dominique both I thought were, I mean, there was others as well that were fantastic, but they were the two clearest standouts of informed, thoughtful, we're tracking the conversation, we're responding substantively to what I was saying and not versions of me that they think I might be, which I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, it's so important to be able to have a conversation that's productive and respectful. What are any final thoughts of this experience?
Let's keep doing it.
Well, thank you ladies for being here, and thank you at home for watching. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this.
Based. Okay, final thoughts. Let's wrap up, okay? Final thoughts. First of all, while I will agree at the end that I could have pushed Eden more, I want to be super clear because I am one of the few people who in debate you will listen to, and I will just be honest about my own performance, and I will also critique myself. Find some of my favorite enemies self-critiquing publicly, okay? Go find it. Good fucking luck, okay? I'm willing to critique myself. I want to be very clear though. I'm not by any means like ashamed of that very ending. I think by and large, it is exactly the type of behavior that we need to have, right? This idea of like for example, like the Steven person in chat saying, stop being nice to them. It doesn't work. Are you stupid? How many people do you think get convinced by being nasty to them? Does bullying people ever change their mind? No. Does bullying fat people change their mind? Has conservative bullying of you convinced you not to be a liberal? Like, no, this is fucking obviously not true. When people treat you like shit, you hate their side more. That's just the reality. And so while I agree I could have held Eden's feet to the fire a little bit more, and I wish that I had because I think it would have had a cool moment for potentially some like internal reflection for her, I don't wish that I was mean to her. I don't wish that I was more nasty to any of these people. And probably she is more likely to change her mind than if I was just like super aggressive the whole time, right? Especially because she was approaching it genuinely. She was listening to me. There were some questions that she ran away from that she would probably even in private agree that she ran away from. But you have to hope that if you plant these little seeds, things change, right? One of the most annoying things that I hear in like the rebuttal against like talking to conservatives like they're people and like engaging with her is that they go, see, they didn't change in that moment. You're like, have you ever as an individual changed your opinion like that in a single conversation? Almost never. That basically doesn't happen. Change happens by a bunch of seeds being planted over and over consistently, right? What made me go from being a fundamentalist to a liberal? Okay, part of it was seeing the abhorrent behavior of the fundamentalists and conservatives around me. But after that, it was actually when I went into Evo biology class and I was told by my church that they were going to hate Christians, that if I told them I was a Christian, they were going to mock me. And I went and I talked to my professor immediately because I was 18 and silly and nervous. And my professor's like, that's totally cool. I'm super happy that you're in my class. If you ever want to come to my office and talk to me about like creationism, I would love to talk to you about it. And he even in that class covered like theories of the beginning of life, and he included creationism, and he didn't just shit on it, which made me open to hearing this professor, which made me open to talking to this professor, and eventually coming to learn that evolution is the most beautiful, incredible thing ever, and it's amazing, okay? What helped me change to becoming more liberal as well? I had another professor, a philosophy professor, who was an ex-Baptist preacher who himself was a deist, but he was very open about being like, I don't want you to change your faith because of my class. If you end up ever changing your beliefs, I want it because it becomes from a value, like a genuine place inside. And it was actually through that class that after my church turned on my gay brother after he'd been serving here 80 hours and were shitbags or shit people, that I came back to my faith because I answered my faith in philosophical questions and meaningful questions. But it was the embrace and kindness of liberals that made me in many parts more willing to be liberal, right? The idea that people just won't change their mind and so you have to like bully and yell at them and scream at them is not true. Are there MAGA people that will never change their mind? Yeah, obviously. Yeah, fuck those people. I'm not interested in those people. Are there a lot of people that will change their mind through consecutive, consistent conversations with people who are of a different mind that treat them well and also provide sufficient pushback? Yes. Does that mean that I have to perfectly offer maximal amounts of proper pushback in every conversation or it's a failure? No. Because if that's the line of failure we erect for one another, then we are all doomed. Right? And we cannot make it so that liberals are so fearful to have conversations with conservatives because they don't win enough that they just stop engaging with one another. That's not the solution to any of this, because I think truth is compelling. I think truth wins. I think you are a better debater when truth is on your side. And frankly, I think the left is closer to truth. We believe in science. Liberalism is fucking awesome. Rights and equalities and opportunities to all people is amazing, and we should be proud of that. Okay, so that's my fucking ending, because I was like realizing that I do this thing where I throw myself like really hard under the bus, and then because people aren't thinking critically about it, they like take that and be like, see, even Kyla's like throwing herself under the bus, and I don't want to do that too much. I need to like stand myself a little bit better. Okay. And just so it's clear, if you disagree with me and you think bludgeoning people with the truth and like being mean to them is the way to change minds, that's fine. Go for it. I'm not even telling you not to. Just don't look at me and tell me I'm failing. Fuck off. I'm not doing that to you, and I think your approach is incorrect. Get fucked.